seagulls follow trawler. It's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you very much.
Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Bustalgia World Tour. The time-travelling bus here in this channel is back again now after last week, of course. It was quite a grim time that we visited, but this week, of course, on the Bustalgia Celtic Years, we don't go sequentially, we don't go in order, we jump all around the place. So this week, we're going to cleanse the soul after talking about the grim 1990s, although it was a very, very good show, it must be said. It was a fantastic show. But yeah, it was quite depressing to talk about some of the subjects on there. But today, we're talking about a phenomenal season in recent Celtic history. We're not going too far back, although strangely, when you actually say it out loud, you're like, wow, that was 7 years ago, 6 years? Jeez, it's crazy. But yeah, 2016-17 season is the Invincible treble season, the first of the quadruple treble, the first out of the 4 in a row. And as you can see, folks, once again, I do not time travel alone. I am joined by a very similar team to last week. We've replaced one man with his son. But anyway, we'll go around the table. Mark Kearney, you're on the bus again tonight. How are you, mate?
I'm doing very well. I'm looking forward to tonight's show. I think last week's one was a wee bit depressing, but it was good to be kind of barometer to see where we've came from in the year to where we are just now. I mean, a bad year for us is maybe winning the league, winning the cup. It was back then a bad year for us with finishing 5th and 6th. So, no, I'm looking forward to talking about us starting a magical time for Celtic and a season I'll never forget. It was great.
Big time. David Logue, your dad put in an amazing shift last week, mate. He was phenomenal. So you've got a lot to live up to. So how the devil are you tonight, mate? You feeling the pressure?
Oh, I live for the pressure, Phil. I live for the pressure. I'm doing good. I'm looking forward to talking about this one. This was obviously a lot more enjoyable league campaign to talk about than maybe the last Bustalgia. But I'm all for it, mate. It was a nice educational lesson for myself and a few of the other Bustalgia fans, I'd like to think. So that was a cracking show. I'm looking forward to being on this one.
It was even an education for me, and you know, it was phenomenal, Mark. Some of the stuff you hung out with was tremendous. You got a lot of love in the comments last week over it, mate. Great research, my man. And our man in Canada, Liam Greenlaw, you're back, mate. How you doing today? How's Canada treating you? How's Vancouver?
Aye, good. Nice and cloudy today, which is, I can't believe I'm saying, because it's been like absolutely roasting lately. Sunshine and that. So, aye, good. Vancouver's great. I miss these long weeks in between games, you know. It's like something to connect me to this, you know. So I'm looking forward to Sunday.
It won't be long till we're going to be playing weekend, midweek. There's going to be a mad run coming up from September onwards where we're not going to get much respite. So there's going to be a lot of content, I think, churned out by the channel as well. But in the preparation for that, I need to remind everybody to like, comment, share, subscribe, and all that other good stuff. And if you wish to become a member of the Boise Bus, a wee tip of the cap to the driver, then you can indeed get a membership as well. Now, gentlemen, as always, we always start with a trivia question on Bustalgia, and I've got one tonight. I've had to get together at the last minute, but I think it's quite a good one. So let me just get my notes in front of me here. Okay, so tonight I will be looking for 6 answers, and I say you don't need to give me them now. We'll come back to it at the end of the show. I just put it out there at the start just so I get the brain working a wee bit. Right. And the question tonight is: Brendan Rodgers swept the board of trophies in Scotland this coming season that made him the 7th Northern Irishman to win major honours in Scottish football. Can you name the other 6 Northern Irishmen that have won either a League Cup, a Scottish Cup, or a Scottish Premier League in Scotland, obviously? I realised what I'd said there, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, hold on. I'm going to say Scotland twice here. But yeah, I'm looking for the 6 other Northern Irish managers that have won silverware in Scotland. Brendan Rodgers became the 7th. So that is the 6 answers we were looking for tonight. And of course, if you're a regular viewer of Bustalgia, you will know that just a few weeks ago, I covered a lot of things from the year 2016 because we're back in 2016 now. We're going to the summer 2016, so I don't need to go through a lot of things, say, a lot of pop culture and news that year with music. Don't really need to bother with because it's all covered on my Euro 2016 one, which if you haven't watched that one, I strongly recommend it. It's a good one, wasn't it, David?
It was a cracking one, mate. It was memorable, obviously.
yeah, it was. But yeah, we do cover a lot of the big headlines of 2016 there, but we will go into the major football headlines. So I say a wee bit of repetition here, but there's a few things that we just want to quickly cover off because a bit of significance in terms of the Scottish stuff as well. So anyway, we've got the big winners in the football again, as I said previously. 2016, the winners were Real Madrid. They won the Champions League. They beat Atletico Madrid on penalties in Milan after a 1-1 draw. And the Europa League that year was won by Seville. Again, they beat Liverpool in Basel, Switzerland to win their 5th of 6 Europa League titles. It's quite hilarious if you ask somebody if they just had to guess who a Champions League winner and a Europa League winner is in a particular year, they'll probably guess Real Madrid and Seville. And literally in 2016, it was Real Madrid and Seville that won the 2 big European trophies. What a shock. Of course, in England, say we did cover this before, but again, we'll bring it up because this is the big one in England in terms of the biggest shocker of Premier League history. Leicester City were Premier League champions. Now, Liam, you've been over in Canada, and obviously the MLS isn't just played in the USA, it's played in Canada as well. So I'd imagine a lot of Canadian soccer fans have got a quite similar nature to American fans, especially when it comes to the Premier League. They seem very infused by the Premier League, very into it. Did you notice a lot of Leicester City fans suddenly popping up in 2016, like the Leicester City Vancouver Supporters Club or anything? Were they suddenly like, yeah, Leicester, man, what a team?
Aye, it's funny. I was getting phone calls for guys that weren't Leicester supporters but supported other teams in the UK, and they were more just enthralled that it was an underdog, that there was a chance for somebody outside. It was something different. So I made a mind an Aberdeen supporter, and he worked with all sorts of people, supported different teams. And they was like, hey, you want to come and watch Leicester today? And as close as it was getting to them actually winning the title, the bigger story it became. But it was purely bandwagon stuff, right? Like, no, like Leicester, there was, I worked with one lassie at the time, and she was from Leicester, and she played football as well. And I used to like sitting and talking to her about it because she was a real fan and supported them all her life, you know. And so it was great. I loved seeing it through her eyes because you could see, like, that's what it feels like when we're watching Celtic when something special happens, you know. And you could see that she was kicking into that, you know.
See, I remember another good few years ago when I'm saying, like, you know, American soccer fans, they're not necessarily Canadians, because there is a big difference between Americans and Canadians. Although I think when they look over at like us getting into their sports, like people in the UK, they kind of roll their eyes the way that we do. But I remember in 2013, so I used to run an online FIFA league for years, right? And I had a guy who was in my league early on in 2013. He was an American, but he was a Wigan fan, right? And I was like, Wigan? And then it dawned on me, he must have watched the FA Cup final that year when they beat Man City and just decided Wigan are the best team ever. And I was like, mate, you're in for a real shock if you've embraced Wigan as your team. I was like, oh, so I thought when I saw Leicester, I was like, I wonder if a lot of Leicester City fan clubs just popped up in America and Canada all of a sudden, like, Leicester City, getting on that bandwagon. But yeah, it was a hell of a story. And I think we talked about it. Obviously, David, you were saying about you had a customer that, if he was going to cash in, did he put money on it, did you say? Or mental. Because the year before they nearly got relegated, they were like, what? They were sitting bottom of the league, I think, at Christmas the season before, went on a bit of a run just to save themselves just at the end of the season and seemed to just keep that run going. And it just took everybody by storm, but it was one of the absolutely biggest stories, I think, in Premier League history. But yeah, Leicester...
That customer I was telling you about, not long after we'd done the 2016 Bustalgia show that was previously on, he actually was in the shop a couple of days later, and I brought it up to him, reminded him about it, and it was he won $5 grand. He won $5 grand for that. Yeah,
man.
Yeah, he's never put a bet on since. He's like, that's it, peaked.
That's it. Just retiring that one, exactly. You're not going to top that. That's an absolute belter. Yeah. But other trophies, well, in England that year, the FA Cup, Man United beat Crystal Palace to win the FA Cup that season. That is the year you'll probably have seen this picture. It's Alan Pardew doing his little dance on the sideline when Crystal Palace take the lead, only to go on and lose 2-1. And in the League Cup, Manchester City, they seem to make that trophy their own now. They defeated Liverpool in the final that year. They beat them on penalties after a 1-1 draw. Now in Scotland, obviously we won the title in 2016. The Scottish Cup was quite an interesting conclusion that season because Hibernian had been waiting 114 years to end their Scottish Cup hoodoo. Now, of course, infamously, we'd lost in the semi-finals to Rangers on a penalty shootout. One of those moments that I talk about, one of these what-if moments, because if Tom Rogic scores that penalty that he got mocked for a good while on social media by Rangers fans, and it was like, well, when you think about it, that miss was quite crucial, because had we went on and scored that, and then say we did go on and win that penalty shootout, and we play Hibs in the final, who wouldn't have been able to play Anthony Stokes or Henderson, who were probably crucial to them winning. There's a good chance that Celtic win the double that year, and a good chance that Ronnie Dyler doesn't end up leaving Celtic, and Brendan Rodgers wouldn't have happened. So in the end, that was actually a bad thing for Rangers that Tom Rogic missed that penalty. But yeah, after them giving it big licks, after beating us, they went on to play Hibs in the final, who they'd picked to the championship title that season. And they got beat 3-2. David Gray scored the stoppage time winner, and Rangers became the pub quiz answer forevermore. Who was the team that ended Hibs' 114-year wait for the Scottish Cup? It was Rangers. But yes, boys, I'll go around the table on this one. Is that the only non-Celtic goal that you've really celebrated? Because I certainly enjoyed that one when David Gray scored. I was like, yes, so satisfying after the bravado that we were getting off them.
But I'll never forget Ray Rovers scoring the last minute against them in the Petrol Cap Cup. I mean, I was in stitches. I actually was cheering, but I was laughing at them losing against Ray Rovers in a fucking trophy that's for amateurs to play in, you know what I mean? And they couldn't even pull that one off. I was in stitches. But when I was beating them, don't get me wrong, mate, it was delicious because I got a taxi home that day and I just get in and Hibs has scored a minute or two after it, and the taxi driver was giving it big licks about them, and I fought by him the rest of that night, you know what I mean? But I cheered that one because you knew there was no way back for that mob. They were red rotten then, and it's something I remember that very, very well, mate. To be honest with you,
the thing is, see the semi-final as well, because Rangers had been in the championship that season, and Warburton had taken over at the start of that season, and that was when they brought in Tav and Waghorn and all that. And I hadn't really paid much attention to their games other than see the headlines about them, and everyone was talking about this right back they've got that's scoring loads and loads of goals. And I can remember an 18-year-old Kieran Tierney completely marking him out of the game, and I was like, is this the almighty Tavernier or Tavernier or however it's pronounced? I still don't know to this day exactly how you say his name. But I remember Kieran Tierney absolutely had them on toast that entire semi-final. And the thing is, even though it was a dismal performance for us in that semi, right? We could have won it where Patrick Roberts missed an open goal. And in the last minute, I think, of extra time, did Lee Griffiths hit a Ronaldo-style free kick that Fotheringham got a fingertip to? It hit the crossbar. and bounced down just in front of the line. It's like, if that goes in, that would be 3-2. But I'd say in the end, it's worked out well for us, because us losing that game is what led to believe is the catalyst for apparently Dermot Desmond was wound up by the Rangers directors celebrating after the game and the executive lounges. As the story goes, he's meant to have said to Peter Lawwell, "Go and get me the best manager possible." I don't think it was quite as black and white as that, but yeah, obviously
that should be his mantra anyway. Fuck's sake. Let's be fucking honest here. And it is pure, just before somebody comes in, but it is pure sliding doors, because I always say that we were supposed to play Inverness Cali on the Saturday. I was at the game and one of the shutters fell off on the top of the Jock's team stand, or whatever it was, and they cancelled the game straight away and moved it to the Wednesday night. And Inverness Cali ended up beating us 3-1 that night. If we played that game on a Saturday, I'm pretty sure Celtic have just Gallagher and just won the match. I had a wee feeling, right? But we lost that match. They sacked John Barnes and we get Martin O'Neill.
That's right.
That's the wee things that happen in football, and these sliding doors moments. And I agree with you. Should we have won that cup? Would their Celtic board have just stood cocky and says, this mob are nowhere near us, and give one a dial another season? We foot out, they would have,
By a shout out in the comments, my mate Ian Fraser. He's a Hibs fan and a Dortmund fan. He travels over to Germany to see Dortmund regularly. Same on the cabbage there, because if you don't know, that's one of the nicknames of the high bees. But yeah, Ian Fraser, he a guy, man. I gave him a shout out a few weeks ago. His wife had gone through chemotherapy recently. She's on the road to recovery now. So again, big shout out to Ian and his wife Alison, because they're definitely in my thoughts for that one. Top man. Good to see you in the comments tonight, Ian. Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard the bus, mate. See, maybe bring on in, not just Celtic fans. So we've got a few Rangers fans that pop up, although funny enough, they're nowhere to be seen right now. We're talking about them losing that cup final. Nowhere to be seen. But yes, we'll move on quickly to the other stories in Scottish football, because yeah, Hibs were also in the League Cup final that season. Now, we lost to Ross County in the semi-final. God, that was a depressing game, that one. We took the lead after 20 seconds, I think. Was it Mackay Stevens scored in the semi-final against Ross County? And then everything just went to shit after that. Effie Ambrose got sent off, gave away a penalty. We ended up losing 3-1 or 3-2, I think it was, to County. They go on and win the Cup, beating Hibs in March of 2016. Yeah, I was a depressing one. But yeah, I think the writing was on the wall as we headed to the end of that season. Like, a lot of the players were phoning it in under Ronnie. But let's see, we'll get on to what happens soon with that one. And the other big league winners across Europe that year were Juventus won it in Italy, Barcelona won it in Spain, Bayern Munich won it in Germany, PSG in France, Benfica in Portugal, and PSV Eindhoven in Holland. No surprises there with all the winners. No upset ones there. So the biggest one's Leicester City. That's the most out of place one. Now, I did this the last time we did a specific season. I did the top 10 transfers that summer to give us an idea where the world was in terms of, world of football was in terms of the inflated transfers that we see nowadays. Now, when I last did it for the 07-08 season, number one was Fernando Torres for 39 million. So let's have a look at what the top 10 was for this time. And some of the players, honestly, I could fall at my seat reading some of these prices. But again, that's just football nowadays. So number 10 was Mustafi going from Valencia to Arsenal for 36.9 million quid. Jesus Christ. João Mario was number 9. He went from Sporting Lisbon Inter for the same price. Sadio Mane went to from Southampton to Liverpool for 37 million quid. Henrik Mkhitaryan from Dortmund to Man United for 37 million. Granit Xhaka from Borussia Mönchengladbach, we will be covering at some point tonight. He went to Arsenal for 40.5 million. Leroy Sané went from Schalke to Man City, 46.8. John Stones was the fourth most expensive transfer in the world that summer, 50 million from Everton to Man City. Hulk, Jesus. The Brazilian striker Hulk went from Zenit St. Petersburg to Shanghai SIPG in the Chinese League for 50.2 million. The second most expensive transfer in the world that summer was Gonzalo Higuain from Napoli to Juventus for 81 million, and setting the world record at that point in time for the most expensive transfer in the world was Paul Pogba going from Juventus to Man United for £94.5 million. And of course, this summer, Paul Pogba returned to Juventus for absolutely nothing. What a whopping deal that was for Manchester United. Fucking hell, man.
For the second time.
It's a crazy career he's got. He's went Man U to Juventus on a free, back to Man United for 94.5 million, and back to Juventus on a free. What a weird career that is, but that is the top 10.
Twice, is he, aye?
He's played to Man U twice in Juventus since he was a youngster at Man United.
He's a youngster, Fergie. Yeah.
I think Gerard Piqué came through Man U from at the same time, but he went to Juventus to get released for Man U because he wasn't really cutting it. Also went on to become an absolute world there player, so Man U like, we'll have him back.
Did he though?
Juventus like,
Did he though? Did he become a worldie?
I think he's a good player, but I just think he's not the right attitude. I think when he wants to do it, I think he's unbelievable.
I think anyone can look like a worldie in Italian football these days, man. It's absolutely.
But then see the 2018 World Cup. I thought Pogba was phenomenal in that France team, and it's like, well, because the other question at the time was he's not doing it for Man United, and this was Mourinho's United, and again, it's like he's doing it for France, so it's like I think he's got it in him, but it's the attitude with him. He's more concerned about TikTok and Instagram, and you know, it's the modern day footballer. Sad to be 94 and a half.
I mean, who was the player that went? He was outstanding. Ozil for Germany. Played one of the best World Cups I've ever seen. Ended up going to Madrid, and it was kind of hit and miss. Then he went to Arsenal, and they fans couldn't stand him. You know what I mean?
Ronaldo was raging when they sold him to Arsenal. Ronaldo couldn't believe that Madrid had sold him because he was literally just putting like assists on a plate week in week out. Ronaldo loved him at Madrid. He was absolutely he was quite vocal about the fact that they sold him to Arsenal. Of all teams as well.
Aye. And he's a bit of dud for them because he ended up as like an Arsenal fan in my work, and he was saying fucking get him at my club, $300,000 a week. The guy was just happy just to sit on the bench and the ball on his arse. I think. Well, he wasn't impressed with him, so I'm kind of taking it that he wasn't all that great for Arsenal, but the World Cup he had was phenomenal, if I remember right.
A game he had against Brazil with Germany. Was it 7-1?
The 7-1 game. Oh my god,
that was a bloodbath. That was a bloodbath. That was like in their own backyard as well. Like you could, it was horrendous. I almost felt uncomfortable watching it at times. Like, holy shit! And they took the foot off the gas. I'm pretty sure they admitted it when they went in at half time. They almost felt like we should maybe chill out. Like, didn't want a riot happening here. It could have been double figures. If they wanted double figures, they'd have done it no bother. I think that night. I mean. David Luiz was just losing his mind at the back. Like he didn't know what was happening.
I looked like he was doing ice skates that night, didn't he?
There was a couple of goals that they scored in quick succession where I swear to God I thought they were showing a replay. I thought it was showing a replay. They scored 2 goals in like 2 minutes, and it was literally the same one. I think Khedira scores one, then Toni Kroos scores right after it, and it's the same move, just a sort of 1-2 passing through their defence and shoot it into the one at the bottom corner. And I was like, is that a replay? It genuinely it looks like the exact same goal. It's like
that was a bad result. That was a bad Brazil setup. The mentality was all wrong. Just too many superstars and too many folk thought they were there to win it. They're going to win it in their own backyard and they bother. And they were proving. I actually think did they not even escape the group or did they know?
They did. That was the same. But do you remember that Neymar got injured against Colombia? And he was out for the rest of the time. It was like the quarterfinals. He got injured, and David Luiz and Thiago Silva did a thing where during the national anthem they were holding up a Neymar shirt, singing pure passion. And he's like, he's no dead. Like, come on, man! It was like they were so reliant on Neymar. Neymar got injured. He get Colombia right in the lower back. No?
Did he not die, Phil? I remember him being down in the park for ages. Like,
surprised, no.
Like they carried him off, and he got a knee in the back.
Have you watched their documentary? You watched the Neymar documentary on Netflix by any chance? Like, if you watch that, you'll get a real insight as to why that mentality was there. Like they honestly believe that guy's a second coming of Pele, he's not even passed yet. Like their whole entire World Cup hope was sort of just completely put on that boy. And when you really see into his personal life, you wonder. Honestly, it's bonkers to watch. Like, but yeah, obviously his injury, that was like pretty much the fan base pretty much thought, well, that's it. They're not winning it now. Like they like almost sold the fact that they weren't going to win it anyway. Like I think that all played into a part of that defeat as well. Not putting down obviously Germany's brilliance at that particular game, but they didn't believe they were winning it as soon as he never came back, and it's almost as if they were like, we're not going to do this for you, Neymar. Apologies. It's crazy. Worth watching. Crazy to watch.
It's interesting. They've got him as the second coming of Pele when they've produced players like Ronaldo, and it's like, what, really? Yeah. But anyway, we talk about Neymar at some point tonight because our paths will cross with Neymar during this season that we're going to be talking about, because our old pals Barcelona will be in town at one point during the old Champions League. So we will be speaking about Mr. Neymar, because he was being an annoying wee naff again when he came to Celtic Park. Surprise. But yeah, we'll do the pre-season roundup now, just the stories, the major stories in Scottish football building up to the season. I touched on them. We'll go through the winners. Obviously, the biggest story is Brendan Rodgers was appointed Celtic manager after we lost that semi-final. Ronnie Dyler, a couple of days later, came out in press conference, said he was stepping down. I think he was told by the board, "You're not staying." A lot of fans say, "Oh no, he did. You know, he put the club first and he stepped down." No. I think he was told, "You're not." I can see Mark's face already. He's like, "Oh, really?" Yeah, but yeah, he came down. But Celtic timing is everything. And do you know, find this interesting, boys? We announced Brendan Rodgers was going to be the Celtic manager the night before the Scottish Cup final. That's one of the few times I've actually stood up and went, "Yes, well done to the board," because I knew what they were doing. And it was so deliberate what they'd done. They were like, "We're going to make sure that we get all the headlines this weekend," because they're like, "He's going to be up here on Monday to be unveiled." So it was like the whole weekend was going to be headlines about Brendan Rodgers coming to Celtic, regardless of who won the Scottish Cup. But Mark, we'll come to you first. Do you think the board were being tactical there with that one? Just a sort of, we're going to put a marker down here. We're going to let Rangers, after all the bravado and all the bluster, this is what's coming next season, and we're going to announce it on the eve of your big cup final?
I don't think they've got the brains for that, mate, to be honest with you.
Wow.
I just think that it fell into place just an ideal time for them. I think they announced that the very first chance they got, and I think it was a Friday night, mate. I'm pretty sure it was a Friday night, and the night before that match I talked about. But I don't think they'll, especially back then, mate, they don't give a fuck about things like that, you know. And in my personal opinion, I think they've not got the mentality for that, because that means they're human, mate, and they're not human, mate. They're a different species for us, you know what I mean? They're not like that. I don't think. In my personal opinion, I think the minute they got the definite yes for that guy, and it's come through in the facts saying, right, okay, I'm flying in Monday morning, I think they've went, right, announce that to Celtic Twitter and Facebook and get all the fans bouncing on Friday night. However, I actually think it done a wee bit of a favour for Rangers and also Hibs fans' behaviour, because the press Saturday and Sunday, was all about how 540 nearly died and Rangers players get assaulted on the park because the Hibs fans ran on the pitch to celebrate.
Oh, yeah.
But then also give the press a wee bit of a side story to take away from the fact Rangers get beat. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it was very clever. The press use wee side stories to cover up like shit hitting the wall for Rangers. You know what I mean? And listen, mate. It's a good narrative to have, mate, and you stand by that, mate. I like your thinking. As a sort of thing, the under Jock Stein, they used to phone up the press and give you stories if Rangers won a cup or something. They would always try and take the attention away, but I just don't think guys like Peter Lowell and what's the guy who's just leaving in January? I forget his name now. Brian.
Bankier.
Sorry, I don't think they're a different planet for us, mate. They're almost like a different species for us. They're not interested in things like that. I think they were just announced it the minute they found out he was coming without a shadow of a doubt. They announced that as quick as possible, I think.
Just so the stars just aligned.
I think so, mate.
David, how excited were you though when Brendan Rodgers got announced? I know how fucking excited I was, because once again that was another one of those summers where the same names were coming up. I know Roy Keane's name's always in the hat. Who else came up? I think David Moyes was out of job, and a lot of people were like, "Oh no, David Moyes." In the end, with hindsight, when you look at what he's done since then, but I understand at the time, I can see why a lot of people were like, no, because I think he'd just get relegated with Sunderland, or I can't remember the exact timeline, but he'd always had the Man United debacle. But when Brendan Rodgers obviously was announced, man, like, how were you feeling, David?
I almost didn't believe it. I was like, nah, I've not read that right. It took me about 3 or 4 times to read it, and I remember I was through the back at my old work, and a boy Scott he's a big Celtic fan. He was middle of cutting a client, and I literally ran through the door and was like, you read this? And the guy was like, and Scott was like, what are you talking? He said, what are you on about? And I was like, Brendan Rodgers, the Celtic, it's actually happening. It's actually happening. I couldn't believe it, man. I was jumping about like a maniac, mate. I mean, you can look back at his tenure at Liverpool. Obviously, it didn't end particularly great. it just seemed to kind of go down the way Brendan Rodgers' career tends to go at management. But he was a slip away for winning the league.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
That's the kind of manager that we were getting, all because the English press decided to write him off because here comes this shiny new German manager that everybody had been talking about was starting to be linked. And it was easy to forget how good a side that Brendan Rodgers side was. If it wasn't for Slippy G, we got what we want. That an unfortunate series of events that happened. That title was wrapped up. It was wrapped up, and then it just completely fell apart. And I don't think a lot of fans will maybe say that Rodgers, almost did what Rodgers does, and we suffered from it as well. Like he could have closed up, he should have shut up shop that game, but he's trying to push for another goal. But if they'd just seen the game out, that league title was won, and he decided to push forward, and they break on the counter attack because of a slip, and they lose the league.
Yeah.
So, but that was easily forgotten about by me when we seen that Brendan Rodgers was coming. That's all I could think of. Was this guy he's a class manager, and I cannot believe that we were getting him.
He was elite.
He was an elite. Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah.
I'd say it's the first time we ever signed an elite manager, because when we signed O'Neill, it was a different vibe back then.
Yeah.
So, and O'Neill, I think he won 2 trophies in England, and that's outstanding, especially for a club like Leicester. But that us signing, I don't know, that guy for Chelsea or something like that, Tuchel, what his name is, because this guy was at a different level, and I was the same as David. See, when I found out, but I was the full night, the blood was pumping through my veins. I was so excited, and I was like that to his first day, his last. I loved the guy.
Now, Liam, you obviously being over on the other side of the Atlantic, how was the news greeted out there? Were you part of Shamrock CSC at that point, or?
Aye.
What were they saying at the end? I take it they were all happy?
Oh, everybody was buzzing, right? Because you all got Liverpool mates there here as well too, and so they're always on the radar. So I was saying where Mark was talking about O'Neill and that, I felt it was like us getting a star. We hadn't brought in many big star players, but we had a star manager, and by star I mean, I had guys coming up to me that supported all sorts of clubs. Oh, here Brendan Rodgers has went to Celtic, and Celtic had never been on their radar because they're just like EPL or Champions League guys and all that, like casual fans that are here. And so it seemed like a bit of a commotion, and I liked it. I liked it as well because they could then tell them there was an attachment as well. It's like, aye, but he's coming to us because he wants to do something special, and we provided that. You could tell people what a great opportunity Celtic was, and you could see how that was in his head, that he could use Celtic as a chance to get back into the limelight and at the same time help us. And as Mark says, I was buzzing. And for the beginning to the last as well, Mark, I didn't agree with him all the time and all that, but I was sad to see him go,
Aye, definitely. Now, I know that we've got Brown Warrior on the comments, and he's he's not Rodgers' biggest fan, basically, and that's fine. I understand, Brown Warrior, that a lot of Celtic fans cannot forgive and forget what happened, how it went. But what we're talking about right now is what our mindset was at the exact time when it was announced, and how excited we were. We're not talking about what happened a few years down the line, because I mentioned it on the U2016 show we did. This got announced, obviously, that summer. I went out to France. I met with a lot of Welsh fans, a lot of Swansea fans, who were asking me, what do you think, Brendan Rodgers, you excited for it? And I think I mentioned it on that show. I said there was literally one fan who gave me a bit of foreshadowing and said, they'll do really well with you, and then he'll leave you high and dry when you least expect it. But I didn't want to listen. I stuck my fingers in my ears and went, leave me be. I don't want to hear all that. I'm too much enjoying it. But no, what we're talking about right now is the 16-17 season. We're not talking about his departure. That'll come up at some point in Bustalgia, but our mindset right now, and what I'm asking the guys is, what were we thinking at that point in time? And I can't disagree with what any of them said there. It was box office, and even Philip DeMarco saying there, you can call Rodgers anything you want, but he was box office. Took the club to the level of the board, shat it to match. Scandalous by the board. 9 million he got at the club when he left. But yeah, as I say, 13,000 fans turned up on the Monday to greet him. And of course, there is that hilarious now meme moment where a Celtic dad holds up his son as a scarf. for the You Never Walk Alone singing. Oh my God, it's fantastic. But 13,000 fans. Now, given Brendan Rodgers, he's got a bit of an ego. Let's just say he definitely loves the attention. I mean, he never got that when he went to Liverpool. I remember watching the Liverpool documentary that was on Channel 5 when he got announced there, and there was hardly any Liverpool fans there to even greet him. He did that thing where he went for a quiet walk around the pitch at Anfield to take it all in, the quiet, ambience of it. And it's like, well, this is the polar opposite. And you've got to imagine, given the sort of ego he's got, he fucking loved that walking out there. That many fans have turned up on a Monday to come and see you, a Monday afternoon, come down to Celtic Park. But did any, David or Mark, did you go to Celtic Park on that day?
I did, mate, aye.
Oh, okay, nice. Hope you remembered your scarf, mate. You weren't holding up some inanimate object.
Well, I'd phone my dad straight away, and I phoned my man. Just says like, my young brother Adam, I says he's not got to school Monday. I'm taking him up there because that's not anything that he could miss. And so we went up to Celtic Park, and to be quite honest with you, mate, it was probably one of the best days I've ever had as a Celtic fan. And that includes actual physical matches. It was just an amazing day, and just like we went to the pub before it, and nothing was going to spoil it. I was even sitting in the bar, and there was like a tracker on his plane. Like folk were saying, he's an hour away, he's a half an hour away, because he was flying into Glasgow Airport in a wee private plane, and Celtic were posting videos of him arriving at the airport. And even when right up until the minute he walked out the tunnel, I went, something's going to fuck this up. You know what I mean? They brought Lee Griffiths. He just signed a 5-year contract. They brought him out with his tap.
Right. So
they were free Celtic strips. It was a carnival atmosphere inside the stadium, and I really enjoyed that day, mate. Honestly, my dad was there, my brother was there. The sun was split in the streets, and my dad got hit and with a smoke bomb. I think it landed inside his hoodie, his jacket. I remember that.
Jesus.
The smell of it stinking, but that's another story. But it was just a great day. We went back to the tune and all that, and nothing was going to spoil that. Probably made better, as you said, because of Saturday's result with the Mankey mob, you know what I mean, getting beaten.
Aye, definitely.
But it was a great day. I don't know. It was one of the ones where I said to myself, like, I need to go to this because I just didn't want to miss it. And if I had to work or something, I would have missed it. Things like that come first, but I'm just glad I managed to make it. Did you manage to get to go to the stadium, David? Is it a bit too far out for you? On a random Monday?
I didn't manage to go. Would have liked to have went, but it was just a bit too far, a bit too short notice, and other commitments were in the way. So
of course, mate, of course. It was just a great day, you know what I mean? And I think you could just, there's a writing on it. It was just straight away for that minute on. I was just thinking to myself, I don't know, and I know I've heard folks saying how when he was speaking on the pitch, saying, when Tommy Burns said this, and there was folk kind of making it like he was just a salesman at the time. I was in the stadium, mate, and everybody that was there bought it. And the guy was selling a narrative. And by the way, you mentioned that Channel 5 documentary. The Channel 5 documentary is where people's opinion of him being a egomaniac came from. And it comes from, there's a painting in his house, a big massive painting of himself, right? And see the painting, he actually explained this about 3-4 years later. I think after that Celtic, actually. What happened is some disabled society or something that he supports had gifted him a painting. Right, they had made, or they painted themselves or something. They gave him this painting as a gift to him for all his hard work. And he was saying like that was one of the most proudest moments of my life, that I had this painting gifted to me by this society. I was overwhelmed that they thought to do that. And yet, at the time, the narrative was he's an egomaniac because of this big painting himself in his house. And but really, he was humbled. But he said, "What else am I supposed to do? Put this in under my bed or in a loft?" This was pride of place because I was so proud of these people that had fought me that much that they'd spent money they didn't have to get this done for me. And he's like, I wouldn't disrespect him by not having this pride of place in my house. It was a painting of himself, but listen, mate, you walk into Pelly's house and Maradona's house when he was alive, and John Hart's, and they love photographs of him sell up with their strips, photographs with a number 10 Hearts and all other houses.
Yeah,
I mean that's. I seen Michael Owen. He's got like a cold Ballon d'Or, just spins running constantly, and it's all pride of place inside his man. that's pure self-indulgence. That's self-indulgence.
Aye.
But I think that Channel 5 documentary did Brendan Rodgers' reputation a lot of harm, actually.
Aye, context is key, and with you just explaining that there, a lot of people won't have known that part of the story. So, as I say, it's always crucial to know the full story behind it. But Mark, you weren't the only one. There's a few viewers as well. Stephen Coltart says he was up at Celtic Park that day. Patrick McLaughlin also says he was at Celtic Park that day. But yeah, it was phenomenal. The buzz was huge for that season, because I was out in France that summer and I just couldn't wait for the football season to start. I think when I was out there as well, the Dembele signing got announced. And again, that was like, I knew about the hype around him. So I was like, fucking hell, that's a big one. So that was.
Did Rodgers sign Dembele? Did Rodgers sign Dembele? Was he on his way anyway? That's what I can't remember. We got him for 500k from Fulham on a because he was meant to be going to Tottenham. But they wanted to the year before, I believe, but Fulham wanted the guarantees that he would be coming back on loan. Tottenham wouldn't agree to that, therefore he didn't move to Tottenham for, I think it was meant to be something like 8 to 10 million then.
Yep.
And obviously that's when we got him on the for the 500k. But I can't remember if it was an actual Rodgers dealing.
If Rodgers was announced in May and Dembele signed in June, you would think.
Oh, it was a Rodgers signing, but Dave was right. The first meeting with Celtic and him was Ronald Dyler and himself in London in the January or February. So that tells me that the scouting department, as David says, don't get me wrong, they'd actually spoken to him, David. I think you mentioned the contract that Spurs wanted them. I think that was looked at again in the January window or whatever it was. But Dyler did speak to him in London. I think that was mentioned in a hotel or a restaurant somewhere. And so
because there's a point I'd like to make I'm sure we'll go down the line with it anyway, Phil. I'm just going to just get it out there while it's some fresh in my mind, because obviously Rodgers, when you look at Rodgers' hit rate for signing players for Celtic, I would say we had more misses than hits, and I believe that a lot of the Invincible teams that we had, the Invincible squad that we had, were inherited by him, and he made the players that Ronnie brought in go up a level. Unbelievable coach.
Yes.
Obviously he has his favourites like his Scotty Sinclair, and now with Dembele one's up for debate whether he brought him in, and then obviously he brought in Eddie on loan. But other than that, right off the top of my head, I'm trying to think of other players that really made a massive, significant difference compared to the guys that were already there, like your Carl McGregors, like your Scott Browns, like your Lee Griffiths, who also didn't sign. That was a Neil Lennon signing. He really, that Invincible squad, which I'm sure we'll start to go into depth with, a lot of it was inherited. So so then there's the debate of whether he's an elite manager or an elite coach, and then maybe that can be discussed later on. I just wanted to get that out while I was fresh.
No, it's true. When you look at his Liverpool track record, he spent obviously a lot more money there, and he had a lot of bad ones, especially when they sold Suarez, and he used the money to bring in like Balotelli and stuff like that, and it was just like, that's not going to work at all. I think in his mind, he thought he could turn Balotelli around. He looked at him and thought, I can make him a player, because Balotelli's an absolute wild man. Great player when he wants to be, but he never really wants to be at the best of times.
Did he know one
choice? He never got a choice. See, this is the thing that I think came out after he left was, and it maybe similar to his Celtic signing policy, is he wasn't getting to go and say, right, I want to go and sign Balotelli. I want to go and sign this guy and this guy. It was here's a list of 3 strikers, pick one. Here's a list of 3 midfielders.
Is that David? Was it?
Sorry, mate?
Silva? I think the one he picked ended up got to Man City and being outstanding. With the Silva or Villa, but the one he wanted, he didn't go, and he was basically lumbered with Balotelli. But I think that came out afterwards as well. But I totally agree.
So it's quite funny where it goes. Like the board, the similar antics are kind of happening for his, because for a guy like Brendan Rodgers coming to Celtic, he really should have got to go. I want him, and that's who I want, and there's no argument here. Yeah. He's getting the likes of Comper and all that. Do
you remember about the time there was a wee saying amongst Celtic fans, and it might strike familiar just now, the saying was, what Brendan wants, Brendan gets. I've heard folks saying what Ange wants, Ange gets. It's quite funny that, isn't it? How these wee sayings catch on to that each manager, isn't it? It just seems to be... even though we've not got any idea what goes on behind board level.
I know.
But I
We'll
think
let you get back on track.
I was just going to quickly say, Brown Warrior says your Spurs offered Dembele 6.5 million. Just quickly on that, I'm glad Spurs didn't sign him, not because we wouldn't have got him, because already had a player named Moussa Dembele at the exact same time, and it would have caused all sorts of fucking confusion. They had the Belgian midfielder, Moussa Dembele. Imagine being the kit man, like, I put M. Dembele on the back, yeah, that would have worked out too well, because it was a January window in 2016. He met with Spurs, and I believe they couldn't guarantee him first-team football for the run-in, basically the second half of the season, and he just stuck it out at Fulham, and we obviously reaped the benefits. But yeah, I do remember at the time when they were linked to Moussa Dembele, and I was like, Spurs have already got Moussa Dembele? What? And then it turned out, yes, another one. So they were almost on the verge of getting them, but no, it ended up working out well for us. But anyway, talking about transfer, say it's ushered in a new age now for Celtics. We've only dial experiment, it's not really worked, but Rodgers comes in with his own team, full backroom team, the lot. Including Chris Davis and Cole Touré came in as a player coach initially, didn't he? Or he was just a player and then turned into a coach. But yeah, he brought in his own scouts and so forth. So we signed Moussa Dembele, we brought in Scott Sinclair, and Cole Touré are probably the highest profile players that we signed. But the other ones, and this backs up David's point that he signed that window. And when I looked at this, I was surprised. I thought we signed a lot more that first window. The only other ones that came in were Christian Gamboa and Doris De Vries. Christopher Ayer joined, but that was a pre-contract deal that was agreed when Ronnie was in charge, and Ayer wouldn't feature until a year later anyway. But yeah, only 5 players were brought in the summer window, and in the winter window, we only brought in Kouassi Abui. Yeah, so that does back up what David's saying there about, he's got a lot more misses and hits, it feels, when it comes to those transfers. And yeah, it was a case of just turning some of these players around, because Callum McGregor looked lost under Ronnie in the second season. Scott Brown, that I think was the season where there was infamous. He was sitting in outside a kebab shop in Edinburgh, wasn't he, on the floor, like pissed, sitting eating a kebab. People thought Brown was finished. Even near Beaton, we got a wee tune out of him for the start of that season. He was playing pretty well. So there's a few players that suddenly get lifted under Brendan, and it does back up that point. Is he actually just a better man manager, better type of coach for motivating people rather than bringing in players? But the biggest departures of that season, that summer, were Stefan Skepovic was off ski, Stefan Johansson was off, Charlie Mulgrew and Anthony Stokes all left. Throughout the season, Effie Ambrose and Chris Commons would find themselves firmly down the pecking order, and they'd be loaned out to Hibs later in the season. Ryan Christie joined Aberdeen on a loan deal, which we would reap the rewards a few years after that. And some fringe players like Saidi Yanko, Nadia Chifty, and Scott Allen were all sent out on loan. And cult heroes Colin Kazim Richards and Carlton Cole were unsurprisingly let go by the club. Unbelievable that they were even there. But Kazim Victors went to play for Corinthians in Brazil, and I believe Carlton Cole went to the USA to play, but not even the MLS. It was like the league below the MLS. It was like he went over there. So yeah, that was Celtic's dealings that summer. But yeah, a bit eye-opening when I was doing my research for that. I was like, I was certain we had a much more coming in that window, but no, Sinclair, Dembele, and Touré were like the three biggies.
You got to tune out the players they had. The one that surprised me the most was Scott Brown. And I remember when one of the first things that came out in one of his conferences or interviews with Brendan was that he had met Scott in London during the off-season and told him what he was wanting to be in a captain and all that. And I was quite surprised because I thought Brown was done. I really did. I was never I was disappointed with Brown that season when we had a new manager come in with new ideas, and I think Brown still, I didn't think he was evolved enough to sort of adapt to, like this new professional way of playing football, and that whole incident with the kebabs, and you don't know if that photo shoot was set up or whatever, but I thought it was a real slap in the face to Ronnie. And then when Rodgers came in, I was thinking, he'll not stand for that, but no, I embraced Brown, and he got a tune out of him that year as well, and I was surprised by that. I thought we were going to see the last of him.
I remember the David, because people always compared him to David Brent from The Office at times, and I remember one of his first interviews where the real David Brentism began to shine through, and he said, Scotty B can be my Stevie G, because Steven Gerrard was his captain at Liverpool, and he called him Scotty B, and I was like, oh no.
Oh, no way.
So I remember that was a headline on one of the newspapers. I was like, oh no.
Aye, Brownie called him, didn't he? I know.
Aye.
Beautiful,
Neil Lennon
beautiful
called him
human
Brownie
being.
as well. Must have been more of an Irish thing, but aye.
I don't think they can pronounce it, because I've heard the English
Ah,
people try to say Brownie as well. It sounds a bit funny.
Yeah.
Brownie.
It's like something different. It's not right, man. Aye, and do you know what I'm going to? There was one more player you never mentioned there, Liam. I thought James Forrest was finished and all under. I thought Ronnie Dyer really killed his career at Celtic, playing him on the left hand side, and it's still to this day. I always get frustrated when I see James Forrest on the left, because where he's playing good or where he's playing bad, it's a waste of a player, because he's never been all that confident on the left hand side. You know what I mean? And I thought he was one of the players that was going to be at the door, and Brown was, because same as the start of this season when folk mentioned Callum McGregor. The guy came at a different level under Rodgers, and for me, he was one of our best players for the full quadruple treble. James Forrest is one of the key men, I feel.
And he had that weird thing where his contract was going to run out in December 2016. He only had half a season left when we kicked off, because Rodgers made it clear that one of his priorities was to get James Forrest signed into a new deal, and he basically kicked into gear right away that season, so I ended up working it really well. But over the City, because we need to keep an eye on our competition, because our neighbours in Govan have been making a lot of noise over the summer, even though they lost that cup final to Hibs. There's a lot of bluster, a lot of bravado. You know, all the marketing, all the propaganda is going for 55. They're in the Premier League and they've got the mighty Mark Warburton as the manager. You know, the magic hat. You know, fans are turning up at Ibrox with rolled up bread packets on their head in the shape of a wizard's hat. Remember all that carry on? So they've had a big summer. So after they won the championship, at the second time of asking, may I add, they also won the Petrol Tank Cup the season before, as we like to call it. But they've had a very busy summer. Very, very busy indeed. They have brought in, deep breath, Josh Windass, Matt Crooks, Jordan Rossiter, Joe Dodu, Joe Garner, Clint Hill, Nico Cranshaw, Matt Gilks, Lee Hodson, and Philip Senderos. But the pick of the bunch, the guy that will be the headline act, is Joey Barton, rocked up at Ibrox in that summer as well. What a signing he turned out to be, for all the wrong reasons, and we'll get on to him very, very soon. But yes, despite nowadays they kind of say, oh, no, we never thought we were really going to challenge for the title that year. We knew it. On the first day of the season, you know, they had a whole tifo in the Govan stand saying going for 55. So to me, that suggests that they did think they were going to win the league. So nowadays they go, oh, no. We knew it wasn't going to happen under Warburton. That's not what I'm seeing when I look back on this. But yeah, they threw everything at it that summer. But yeah, looking at some of those names there, fucking Killers Row, man. Jesus Christ.
What was your thoughts when you saw Joey Barton's name? See, when you saw Joey Barton's name when he signed, what was your initial thoughts? I'll be honest. See, when I remember it really well. I was at somebody's wedding, and it came up, and my initial thought was, did he not just win Championship Player of the Year last year?
He did.
Yeah. So I
genuinely thought it was better good signing. Genuinely,
he raised an eyebrow for me. I was like, oh, that's a good signing. I would obviously count my bit of history and a bit of baggage and stuff, but when you put all that aside, I thought he's Championship Player of the Year. That's a decent signing, like. But
I think he was in the team of the year. See, the team of the year, the first 11. I think he was in that. I don't think he won the. I think the Rangers fans wanted you to think that.
Mm-hmm. All right, okay. I thought he had. Maybe I misread that, but he definitely wasn't. Like, he must have beaten Player of the Year.
I thought that, mate, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I was in the pub and all. I remember myself, and I thought to myself, that's a player. I did. I'm not gonna lie. I thought. That's a really big signing for them. That's a marker they've done pretty early, mate.
Not a game changer, but certainly making a statement signing. I wouldn't say worried. Worried's not the word, but it raised an eyebrow. I was like,
aye,
okay.
They're
letting us know. We're back up, and we're here to make a statement and. Claim back or win the 55 that they then soon told us that they weren't actually in any. They were nowhere near it. But
yep.
But no, I did.
No, definitely did catch me off guard. I was like, that's actually quite a good side, because you're right. I think Burnley just got promoted to the Premier League the end of that season that finished, and he decided his contract was up and he was leaving. So it was like, oh, that's interesting. But I say, behind hindsight being a wonderful thing, we can laugh at it now and go, he was a fucking, he was absolutely shite. And we will talk about what happened to him very, very soon, because we'll be talking very much in depth about the matches with Rangers, because he had a starring role in the very first one that season. But outside of the bubble of Glasgow, the biggest fee paid for a player leaving Scottish football that summer was Greg Stewart, who went from Dundee to Birmingham for 500,000. Why am I highlighting this? Because keep in mind, just 10 years prior, Craig Gordon left Hearts for £9 million to go to Sunderland. A sad reflection of where the league is in the pecking order in Europe. But yeah, that just sums it up. And in terms of Celtic's pre-season preparations, they set up camp in Slovenia this time. I'm going to try to pronounce some of these names. So it started off with a game against a team called NK. I want to say it's like Celja, Celje. We drew 2-2, and Nadia Chifty scored the very first goal of the Brendan Rodgers regime. It's a bit like Ajeti scoring the first goal of the Ange regime. Remember that was... Aye, it was quite weird. But it was Nadia Chifty. We then beat Sturm Graz 1-0 and got a 2-1 victory over a team called Olympia, and we finished with a 0-0 draw against Maribor. And Celtic also beat Wolfsburg 2-1 in Glasgow as part of our preparation. But either side of the Wolfsburg game, we did have a Champions League qualifier against Lincoln Red Imps, which we will talk about during the European part of it, because it's a bit infamous. I feel personally, we'll get on it properly in a wee while, but I feel personally it's a bit overblown now, because at the end of the day, European ties are a two-legged tie. So the thing is, it was a Champions League qualifier, so who moved on to the next round? We did. Okay, we lost the first leg, but it was only half-time effectively, So it's like, to me, it was a bit of a bruise at the time, but ultimately it didn't really matter. Had we gone out to them, yeah, we would still be getting flack for it to this day, but yeah, they did come at that point in the season, just around about the Wolfsburg friendly. And also Celtic played in the prestigious International Champions Cup, some sort of short-lived thing, a few seasons in a row, where it was like, the organisers tried to make you believe it was this big, prestigious pre-season cup. We played Barcelona, Leicester, and Inter Milan. It was purely just a money spinner, nothing more, nothing less. But that was us ready to roll into the season. So, wow, it's been an hour already, guys. Jesus Christ. Where does it go on the bus? So I will put in the musical interlude just now to allow get refills of water or anything like that. And when we come back, we will be talking about our matches with Rangers that season to start off, because we had quite a few memorable ones along the way. So I will cue up the music and we shall catch you in a moment.
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan.
And we are back, although David's disappeared, but it's fine. He'll get back in a moment. So, yeah, we're going to go on and talk now about the 2016-17 season, the Invincible Treble. And as the headline says there, the noisy neighbours, a term that Alex Ferguson used years ago to describe Manchester City once they finally got a wee bit of money behind them and a bit of muscle. The noisy neighbours, because, yeah, our pals across the city are making a lot of noise, a lot of bravado, a lot of bluster. They're riding the crest of a wave with the bread man in charge, Mark Warburton. After beating us in that semi-final, they brought in a whole power of players, Joey Barton, Clint Hill, Nico Cranchard and all. They say all the propaganda that they're throwing out there, they suggest they fancy it. They really do fancy it, despite the fact Celtic have quite clearly laid down a marker and said, we just appointed Brendan Rodgers. Do you not care to notice this, Rangers, at all? But no, they clearly fancied their chances, and it would come to a head in the first meeting between both sides at Celtic Park on September the 10th. 2016, and it was a resounding 5-1 victory for the Celts. I'll quickly run through the events of that one because it was a memorable one. In the run-up to it, Rhys Griffiths has actually started the season as the main striker, but then an injury shortly before this game allowed the chance for Dembele to get a start, and he certainly took that chance. But then again, he was always a quality player anyway. It wasn't a case of, he had to prove himself. He was always going to. He bags a hat-trick on the day. First one was a header at a corner, something very, very rare, even to this day for Celtic, to score a header direct at a corner. Second one was the one where he put Senderos on his backside. It was near Beaton, played the through ball, and he just controls it, sidesteps Senderos, who basically falls on his arse, and he just puts it past Foderingham in goal. The third goal was Sinclair. There was a nice wee through ball, and he just slotted it away and off the post. Fourth one, I think Lustig crosses it foot wide right. Good control, and he just volleys it past Foderingham. It was Dembele with a hat-trick. And then the fifth one, Stuart Armstrong came off the bench, and this was also the beginning of the rebirth for Stuart Armstrong, but he comes on and gets the fifth one. But yeah, in amongst all of that carnage as well, you had Philip Senderos clumsily getting sent off for a second booking. And of course, that is the very, very famous image when the fifth goal's gone in. It's a camera that's low down just behind the net of Joey Barton. Joey Barton's just like picking up the ball out of the net, and he looks so dejected, so like defeated. He's just like, I can't believe I find myself in this situation. All these clowns around me. Now, here's a thing as well a lot of people forget. Remember that Doris de Vries started as a goalkeeper in that game? Because around about that time, I remember saying that Brendan Rodgers had made it quite clear he didn't really fancy Craig Gordon and was trying to force de Vries as the new number one keeper, and that obviously didn't last. But Mark, were you at that game on that one?
Yeah, I was, mate. And I remember you mentioned Lee Griffiths. We were on the supporters bus, me and my young brother Adam, and we got the team news because there was a Willie Wonty Griffiths going to be fit.
Yep.
And I felt really dejected when that Griffiths was injured and Dembele was going to start, because Dembele's start of the season wasn't that great. I think he got a last-minute goal against Astana, apparently, just before it.
He did.
Against Astana to put us through anyway.
Yeah, that was his first competitive goal, Mark, I think.
Was it? I think that was his. And the Celtic strikers, mate, you do kind of focus on the goals scored to begin with rather than performances. And I was really dejected, honestly. But the minute I arrived and I seen the Green Brigade set up the orange, green, white, and orange t-shirts, constant tricolour in the corner, and I got a lot of good memories for that day. It was really hot. It was lovely. It was scorching. I think I'm pretty sure. Lustig had put a beach ball on his head when we scored one of the goals. One was burst and he just ran and put it in his head.
He did.
And I can still see, like, in my mind's eye, I can still see a lot of moments for that match. But one of the most vivid memories, I can still see like Dembele just taking that touch and hitting the hat trick. And I keep for Celtic, you know what I mean? And de Vries was in goals that day, and Kolo Toure was in the Sviatchenko in the middle of the defence, I'm pretty sure.
They were indeed.
It was a good. Beaton was really good that day as well. Beaton was really good in midfield that day, and it was just a brilliant day. And if you remember right, leading up to that match, I mean, you Hugh Keevans, etc., tipped Rangers to win the league, and even right up to the night before, Rangers had started not too bad in the league, and there was folk tipping the Rangers win, and a lot of them were tipping like 2-0 wins and all the rest of it, and not giving Celtic much of a chance, believe it or not. And and Oh, got a lot of good memories for that match, mate. And the atmosphere that day was phenomenal. And that was just typical Brendan Rodgers. Just totally took himself out the emotion of the match and just sat there with his notepad and just scribbled away all day. And he just murdered them that day, so he did.
Oh, yeah, absolutely did. Just quickly, what's in my head as well, I'll ask you guys and anyone in the chat. I imagine Patrick McLaughlin might come through this one. Why did we start the season away from home against Hearts that year?
Sky.
But it makes no sense because we're the champions. I know in 2014 we had to because our stadium was getting used for the opening ceremony of the Commonwealth Games. But why in 2016-17 did we have to start with an away game at Tynecastle? It's just in my head there. I was like, if anybody knows, say Patrick McLaughlin will probably come through with there's probably a reason behind it. Maybe it is just a case of TV, but it makes no sense because we were the champions. We have a flag to unfurl. First home game of the season.
We just had to do it. We just had our first. Do we not just have our first game? Not even. I mean, not even aired. It was on a Sat. Like we should be. Should we not meant to be the first game of the season as well? Is that not the case? Just there, but our first game of the season was on the Sunday after a whole lot of games had already played. So it's just there's no real rhyme or reason. That'll be the answer. So. There's no real rhyme or reason.
Yeah. Something tells me there's something behind it. Something tells me that there's a memory somewhere in my head that something either Celtic had changed something or they could rearrange a fixture and that's the game they had to play. Something tells me Celtic were involved in some way. It might have been because of that championship thing you mentioned before.
The International Champions Cup. You could be that.
Let's not forget like how late that Scotty Sinclair signing was that day as well. Remember, he literally got off a plane and went straight to the game.
I'm pretty sure, mate, sorry to interrupt you, I'm pretty sure he signed for Celtic, played for Celtic and scored for Celtic on his very first day, or the same day.
Yeah, it was within hours. Because it was a bit like, is he going to be registered in time? Are they going to be able to play him? And he came off the bench, didn't he? He didn't start the game, I don't think. But
yeah, you're right.
But to detract from the Rangers game, we'll go back to that.
So, Liam, I was going to ask you, because obviously you've been over in Canada, you have to get up very, very early for games, and that Rangers game would have been, I'd imagine it probably kicked off at 12:30 our time, so that would have been, 4:30 in the morning for you. But that was probably one of those days where you were very, very happy and thankful to get up early, because that sets your day up right, doesn't it? You know, you started watching Celtic winning 5-1 against Rangers, and you're kind of like, yeah, this is going to set the tone for the season, mate. What were you thinking after that one?
I was loving it. That was a great. My boy came with me to that game as well, and hard to get him up at that time in the morning. And we had a friend up from Los Angeles that was here filming a movie, and he got in touch with me and wanted to know if I could find him at 4 a.m. and take him to the pub to watch a game. And that was Davey O'Hara that was in Braveheart. It was a big Celtic. So he showed up. That he was filming later that day as well. They had somebody come and pick him up after it. You know, he was filming outside the city, but he arranged it so he could come and make that game. You know what? I remember that game, Phil. I remember, maybe Mark, David remember this as well. Do you remember there was a drop ball? There was a drop ball maybe 15, 20 minutes into the game, and it was in the centre of the pitch, and it was Joey Barton and Scott Brown. And it was one of the ones where it was a contested drop ball where the two guys went at it. And I remember thinking, this is it. This is the showdown. And I remember Barton didn't even look interested as if he wanted to even compete for it. You know, the fists was all clenched and all that, but you know, Scott Brown just took it away like he was just taking it off a wee boy. I thought that was something.
Like, you're right. He didn't. You know, what it reminded me of, Liam, was, you know, when you see boxers or UFC fighters and they square up before and they do the weigh-ins, and that one of them looks straight through the other guy, another one doesn't even want to look. Won't even look in the boy's direction. That's what Joey Barton did when they right at the start, even before the game had kicked off. The game was already lost in his mind. Like, you know, when you see a boxer do that and you go, he's lost it. He's lost it before a punch has even been thrown. That's the vibe that I think a lot of us got when Joey Barton lined up against Scott Brown, and then again, in that moment, you knew Brown was going to go through him like a hot knife through butter, and he did, because Barton wasn't up for it. He was not up for it. He knew right away when the whistle was blowing, this is not, we're not ready for this.
After that, I wasn't worried about him at all for the rest of the game. Neither did
that was last week for Rangers. Don't forget, that was a match that it all kicked off in the dressing room, and then back at the training ground, and they had a big family meeting. And this is the same with the meeting that ended his career. He had to sign a non-disclosure act about this. I remember it took about 2 months for him to be shipped out after the club. But so the true story we'll never know. But seemingly there's a lot of rumours that he said that his young son's older in the club and all the rest of it, and all that kind of stuff. But and which is true because at that time they're only 6, now they're 12. God love them. But I mean, you're right. There's a photograph before the match, and Brown's just kind of like, he's focused, and Barton's just kind of scared to kind of shake his hand and all the rest of it. And that 50-50 you're talking about, Liam, that was easy peasy. I mean, unlike the nowadays when Cal McGregor beats Lundstrom to the ball, and the Rangers fans think that a screenshot of him winning the second ball makes him the challenge winner there. Unlike that was totally different. Scott Brown just won the ball and then laid a marker on that guy. And I actually think Joey Barton spoke about that match before. I think somebody just said there that they won the ready for it, and he just said like, there was no way we were going to that match. And looking to my left and my right and seeing the players we had, thinking that we could have competed against this Celtic mob. And Mark Warburton, I'm pretty sure, when he was a manager at Nottingham Forest, said he walked out and saw that 55 banner. He said, "Who the fuck organised this?" Because he said we knew, even behind the scenes, like me and Davy Weir, like, we knew that there was no way we were going to win the league this year. You know what I mean? This was like, just up, let's build up the confidence, let's answer the questions positively if we get asked the questions. But I mean, did anybody here in the panel, anybody in this group chat here think that Celtic were going to lose the league that year? Because I don't think I did, and I'm quite pessimistic.
Definitely not. With Rodgers getting appointed right for the start, I was confident, and then this just confirmed it. After this first result, I was like, we're miles ahead of him, because like Tranchar, he was way off the pace. Senderos, he was made to look an absolute fool by Dembele, and then clumsily get sent off. And I say, you've talked about Joey Barton, this was his last game because they had the crisis meeting or a bust up at training following this. And it was all just downhill for there. But hey, guys, the one positive that they've got is Barry Mackay's shot almost went in. Earlier I talked about Dom Rogic missing that penalty. Remember, for a while they're going, but see if that Barry Mackay shot when it was 2-1 went in, different game. But it didn't. So what are you going to do about it?
5-2. It ended 5-2.
Phil, can I bring up something else for that game, to the end of that game? And something about Rodgers. A friend of mine, I was speaking to my pal Richie this morning. He was reminding me of this as well, that in the post-match after that, one of the journalists said to Brendan, "Lee who?" And that's what he said. And because of Dembele scoring the 3 goals in that. And do you remember Brendan rebuffing him and telling Lee who? He says, Lee Griffiths is a very important player for this club. But disrespected like that.
That's a gift. This was
is that Griffiths that he's talking about in that gift? Show some respect. Yeah.
Okay.
I thought it was Scott Brown that he was talking about for some reason. I don't know why.
No, mate, it was
because he was injured. Belly came in.
That's good of Rodgers though, because that could have easily, Rodgers could have laughed off him and said, and then what does that do for Lee Griffiths' career at the time anyway? Like all that would look like is if Rodgers is fully in agreement there, and Lee who, but put him to the side, we don't need him. And then obviously if anything had happened to Dembele, we'd have been looking at who is that guy we need again. So it was good. It's good. That's a class. He was always very good at the dealing with the media. Good man
management, David. Good man management. Good coach. Good mental stuff there. So I keeps the players confident. No, I definitely was. He was too quick for them at times. But we move on though, because after this game, obviously we gave them a right good tanking. And then we played them again in the League Cup at the end of October. It was a lot closer this time. I think even after the game, Mark Warburton used it as an example of the gap's definitely closing. Well, I'd say that would not be true later on in the season. But we go on and play them in the League Cup, and it's 0-0 until the 85th minute. Rangers are actually putting a wee bit of a fight up, although midway through the second half, and I say it inexplicably, but then again, this is Scottish football and this is Scottish referees and it's a Celtic game. Craig Thompson rules out an Eric Sviatchenko goal for Clint Hill. He pushed Clint Hill apparently, but the replays show that Clint Hill basically falls into him going for a header. And inexplicably, yes, he disallows Eric Sviatchenko's perfectly good goal midway through the half. But in the end, with how we end up winning the game, It's much more dramatic when you score a goal with about 3 minutes to go. Celtic break down the right with Lee Griffiths. He puts a nice wee low-driven cross into the box. Moussa Dembele, a wee back heel flick, goes right through the legs of Matt Gilks in goal, and absolute scenes break out in the stands. But yeah, I was at that one, and that was a phenomenal moment because the ghosts of the Scottish Cup semi-final from a few months before are looming. Because you're like, we're at Hampden. It's a cup semi-final. It's against them. Extra time is looming. Please don't let it happen again. But yeah, we're about 87, 88 minutes played. Dembele, composed as fuck, he just comes in and he just doesn't thrash at it or nothing. Lets it go through his legs and just back heel flicks it right through Jilks' legs. What a fucking goal. And again, just proving what an absolute baller this guy is. Unbelievable, guys.
Through two of their legs, through the keeper and the defender's legs, I'm pretty sure.
Went through, was it Kiernan or something like that, the centre back? But it might very well have actually, now you've come to say it. I remember the giveaway with the goalkeeper's legs, but that's right.
See, after that match, I was supposed to get my Maz partner, he was supposed to pick me and my brother up outside Hampden, and he decided to leave the house after the game had finished. So we were sitting outside the police station at Hampden for about 2.5 hours. But as anybody that knows the Hampden layout, a lot of Rangers supporters buses can go down that way, right on the way out. You know what I mean? They don't just go from Mount Florida; they go that way as well. And the abuse me and my wee brother got that day was terrible. I was sitting there about 2 hours sitting there just with Rangers fans walking by. It was fucking. I know we're at a polo station, but they weren't giving a fuck, man. They were spitting outside the bus windows at us and everything. None of them hit me right enough, but they were spitting out the windows. And I kind of ruined that the aftermath of that day for me, because my brother was only about 14, 15 at the time, if even that, so I was a bit worried. And obviously for myself, get my fucking balls booted, but it was a good game. I'll never forget that. That was one of my. I've seen us thrash them a good few times, but that was more satisfying because the relief. It was just phenomenal, mate.
It's a late winner. I think I said it when I was talking about my favourite game was when Vinegar Essling scored the last minute winner. There's nothing better than a late winner against them. It's all well and good getting a really resounding 5-1 or something. That's satisfying in its own way. But see that a late goal. So it was on the clock, I'm sure it's like 88 minutes played. And then he just does that. Especially at that time in the game, for him to be as cool and composed, just let it run through his legs and just flick it. Oh, it was phenomenal. And again, just proved how great a player he was, man. Absolute baller. But yeah, Celtic marched on to the final where they would play Aberdeen and would end up wrapping up that cup comfortably. But the next time Celtic and Rangers would play, by the time they met in the New Year game at Ibrox, Celtic found themselves a whopping 16 points in front of the league at this point. It was quite obvious where the title was going to go. By the time we kicked off in the New Year game at Ibrox, Celtic was 16 points in front, looking to go 19 points clear. If Rangers had salvaged a win here, they could have got back to 13 points. They'd still be in the race, guys. Still be in the race. But yeah, it didn't start too well, though, for Celtic, because as usually at Ibrox, they usually come with the traps flying. It's usually a ferocious atmosphere. They usually come out trying all guns blazing right from the start. And yeah, they were right on top of us. And I think this is the game that it feels to me like Brendan Rodgers made his mind up on Eric Sviatchenko after this, because this is when he drops out the team. Because he is at the centre of us losing the goal. He tries to pass out of defence, makes a complete hash of it. Rangers pick up the loose ball, stick the ball in, and Kenny Miller scores. And for the rest of the game, I think Sviatchenko was just rocked by that. But a bit similar to the game we played against Rangers a few months ago at Ibrox, where we 1-0 down quite early. We just chipped away at them. And Moussa Dembele, again, that guy just pops up. It's a corner. He comes in the back post. He chests it down and absolutely thunder bastards it right into the top corner with his left foot. Absolutely, just no mistake. It's one of these ones, I'm just going to put everything through this, just absolutely batter it into the net. And one of the things, there's a video out there, right, of a mobile phone video that's in the Copeland Road end of that goal, right? And this is one thing that just makes me so sad about the current situation with the away fans when it comes to Celtic and Rangers games. So somebody had filmed it in the Copeland Road end. Actually, I think the video went viral because basically one of their fans racially abuses them. But when that goal hits the net and you're looking down towards the Celtic end of the boom one and see the noise, it travels down the stadium and you hear that roar when the Celtic fans realise it's in, and it's just like the hair standing up on your arm when you just hear it. And it's like, I say, it just makes me so sad with the current situation with the away fans, because it's like, it needs a big fucking away allocation. I feel just it adds to the intensity of it. But it was some finish though for Dembele though. So he makes no mistake. He just thinks, fuck it, I'm putting my laces right through this to make sure this hits the back of the net. It was a fucking phenomenal goal.
It's one of those ones that if the keeper saves it, it kills him. It's like the keeper's not, he's just better getting out of the way.
Whoever I punch, kill.
He dies.
That was solid, wasn't it? That was a great goal. I mean,
struggle for Rocky if he dies.
Incredible. Love
Big me Albie.
Big me Albie, Big Johan.
Christ, aye.
That was a great goal.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that was that no long before half time? Was that?
So half time, I got it back to 1 apiece because we were the team of the ascendancy. After Rangers' typical 20 minutes, first 20 minutes out the traps, flying, they began to tire and slow down, and Celtic just began passing it around, getting a feel for it. So we get ourselves back in. Second half, it's pretty much one-way traffic again. We're just building up slowly but surely. And yeah, the winning goal in the end actually comes from a brilliant wee reverse pass from Patrick Roberts cutting inside. He plays it to Stuart Armstrong into the channel, who puts it across the goal. And Scott Sinclair's there to tap it into the back post, no problem. But I love the pass from Patrick Roberts because everyone remembers the finish and the ball across. But yeah, the build-up play, it's a brilliant, it's one of those ones he's not even looking. He's deceived the defenders because he's looking in a different direction for where he passes it and slots it through to Armstrong, who sticks it across and Sinclair scores. But the thing that this game is always remembered for, that everyone always gets a good chuckle out of, we're winning 2-1. It's heading towards the end of the game. We've got a corner. Mr. Dembele goes out of the corner and just holds it out there for about 3.5 minutes. I don't think that's over exaggerated. It's 3.5, 4 minutes. Just Rangers players are just trying to get off. He's just bodying them. He's just nah, you're not getting it. And they put it for another corner. We play it short again. Just hold it out there, and he just toys with them. And again, this guy, man, I fucking love Dembele. The more I'm talking about, the more I'm thinking about what he used to do to torment them. I'm like, I fucking love that guy. Love him.
What an athlete! What an athlete, man!
What a man!
I think they were all athletes under Rodgers. Rodgers turned them on to athletes. I mean, even these skinny guys like Ryan Christie, he turned into a bit of a Hulk under him. You know what I mean? And James Forrest really bulked up under him. I think they all did. They all looked like machines, and I think that kind of slowly wore off them when Lennon took over. But as he said the other, David says he was an absolute animal. I'm not going to want to try and barge him off the ball myself. You know what I mean? Not that I don't have a chance against anybody, to be honest, but especially not him.
Definitely not, man. Definitely not. But the Celtic go on and win the game and now find themselves 19 points in front at the top of the table, just at the halfway stage. It's quite obvious at this point where the title's going, so you can kind of just kick back now and enjoy the rest of the season. And maybe from my point of view, I think it was around about this time I was starting to think, can we go unbeaten? Because it's the pressure's kind of off now in the league in terms of the title, because we're going to win it. There's no way we're going to throw this away. But then you're starting to think, at that point, I'd never seen Celtic go unbeaten. I don't know if they've done it way back in their past, but I remember in 2004, they came very, very close. And then Aberdeen came to Celtic Park near the end of the season and beat us. And Lenny's last season, in his first stint, we only lost one league game all season, and it was to Aberdeen as well, up at Pittodrie. And that was about March or something like that happened. But again, you're like, can we do this now? We're that far in front, and you're starting to think about it. This could be on, by the way, but we'll get to that very, very soon. But yeah, we head on to the next one. So by the time we play them in March, just about St. Patrick's Day, the Magic Hat is gone. His hat was an absolute dud, and Graham Murty's now in charge at Rangers for the rest of the season. And this is the only plus point the Rangers get against us, because they managed to actually salvage a 1-1 draw in this game. A bit like when they beat us 2-2 in the Scottish Cup semi-final the year before. They beat us 1-1 that day because they fucking milked that one for all it was worth. But that game, I can remember going into it, again, you're just thinking, we're just going to absolutely rattle them, because going into this game, we were 30 points in front of Rangers. 30 at that stage in March 2017. So you're thinking, we're going to absolutely body them again. This is going to be an absolute canter. But we were slow and sluggish. First half, we get the lead. Stuart Armstrong scores, and we go in at halftime 1-0. But second half, we just came out. We were just all over the place. Rangers got a wee bit of the play, and then we have about 3 or 4 minutes to go. I think it was that Emerson Hindman that they had, the American guy on loan. He has a shot for the edge of the area. Craig Gordon palms it back out, and Clint Hill taps it in at the back post. But there was still time for a little bit of drama at the end of that game, because just what I said a minute ago about Craig Thompson inexplicably no giving a goal against us. Bobby Madden has an inexplicable moment where, with seconds to go, Lee Griffiths is bearing down on goal, and Clint Hill absolutely cleans him out. It is a Stonewall penalty every day of the week, apart from one man says it's not. Brother Madden just was like, nah, no penalty. Obviously, at the time, people in the stands were fuming because you want to beat them anyway. But in the grand scheme of things, we were 30 points in front of them, and it was hilarious to see them celebrating that one, which reminds me, the other day, I saw an exchange on Twitter between a Hibs fan and a Rangers fan where a Rangers fan was getting a bit wide, saying, imagine celebrating a draw, pure tin pot stuff. And the Hibs fan literally posted a screen grab from the YouTube video of that game. Rangers fans celebrate draw at Celtic Park, and then the next screen grab that the guy posted was the guy blocked him. So it's one of those ones, a short story, and it was like 3 pictures he posted. So the initial exchange, then he sent him that screen grab of the video, and then the next thing the Rangers fan blocked him, and it's like, oh, there you go. But I remember them milking that one, and it's like, you're 30 points behind us in the league, you clowns.
Yeah. But they're not closer to relegation than they were to winning the title that year. Like, I'm sure the point gap was closer to the last place than they were to us. I'm sure I remember reading that. I found that quite amusing. Obviously, they were nowhere near getting relegated, but like just the point gap between us and the point gaps between them in last place was.
Were they fourth that season or what?
They were fourth.
Did they not finish third? They
behind
finished third
Aberdeen.
because we. Oh, was it? Yeah, was it that one? Was it that one they finished third, mate?
Finished third, aye.
Yeah, didn't end up drawing against Aberdeen that game. That season.
They finished third 2 seasons in a row. Aberdeen finished second. The next season, we lost to Aberdeen on the last day of the season, which conveniently allowed Aberdeen to finish second place.
That's the one. I'm getting mixed up. Yeah.
But no, the Rangers finished third that season, but they were 33 points behind at the end of the season. Ouch. So the next 2 meetings came in quick succession, though. We had the Scottish Cup semi-final coming up against them, and then we would go to Ibrox to play them in the final league meeting of the season. But the Scottish Cup semi-final was as comfortable a 2-0 as you would ever see, even though Dembele did go off injured quite early on in the game. I think the game is very much remembered for that satisfying sound when Callum McGregor passes the ball into the net, and it's that noise as it hits the back of the net and the goal frame sort of shakes and it just echoes around Hampden. We absolutely cantered it that day, and then it was Sinclair scored the second one. But one thing I always remember for that game is the hilarious touch that Martin Waghorn took where he was trying to break through on goal from about the halfway line and ended up playing out for a goal kick. It was fucking tremendous.
Benny Hill, remember something about Benny Hill when that was like running away from the ball. I think Abdi just stood and watched them do it. It's one of the ones that even the Celtic players are like, do your thing, we're just going to watch you because there's no way you're catching that ball. I mean, sure, that guy, he was trying to fight with a wee schoolboy up the road to me. Remember, that's just where I went, just up the road there.
Somebody videotaped that, right?
What's that?
Somebody videoed that as well. He was ready.
That's what I seen it, mate. I didn't know the wee boy, but I seen the video and it's a smashing chippy actually. But he was doing it at like 12:30, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, getting a chippy, and you go. Do you remember when Waghorn was in the Championship, scored 30 odd goals, and Griffith scored 40 in the Premier League? There was like serious debates and like Clyde won, etc. about who was the better striker. Like, how was that even allowed to be a serious debate amongst? Obviously, you get Derek Johnson and guys like that.
Well, put it this way, mate. Would you ever have the debate as Mitrovic a better striker than Harry Kane because he scored 40 odd goals in Championship last season?
No, you wouldn't, mate.
You wouldn't.
That single-minded hatred for anybody that's no them. Well, they have, but no in football they don't. You know what I mean? It's like obviously, like, I mean, even at the time I found it bizarre. But even thinking back, it even sounds hysterically bizarre. You know what I mean? Like a guy who scored less goals, and I might be wrong here. Somebody can check this out. I'm sure about 15 were penalties. You know what I mean?
I think you're right. I think he was a penalty guy before Captain Tav stepped up to take them. I'm pretty sure you're right there.
I mean, I seen something yesterday, just to go off topic for 1 second. It was 164 goal contributions for Rangers for Tavernier. But did I think that 60 of them are penalties? Is that right?
Is something like that.
That's hysterical. I mean, I have to say there's probably another 20 or 30 that he's missed due to the fact that he's been injured or suspended, or because there was a spell where they would have taken him. So they've maybe had upwards of 100 penalties in the last 7 years. I mean, that can't be right, man. What the fuck? How can that be right?
No other team in world football must have that. That must be a world record. They go on about their records, world records, and that. That must be a world record.
That's a genuine. I mean, Linfield is there. Linfield seems to be there. They're brawling up.
163 penalties. Monty's saying apparently they go 163.
Might well.
Surely not.
163 goal contributions, but
okay.
I do know he's involved in 60 penalties. I do know that for a fact. That's roughly what he's. Yeah, and he's only been there for 7 years or 8 years. So you add that up, and also he might have missed 20 or 30. As I said, other folk might have took them. So you're talking nearly 100 penalties. But what were you talking about there before that?
Just beating Rangers in the cup semi-final. Just saying the.
You asked me. I remember. Do you remember the hilarious Rangers TV commentary that day when
Don Robertson gave a penalty or something like that, wasn't it? And he goes, "Oh, he singled him out, didn't he?" Aye.
And it was like, mate, I had to post him in quite comfortably. And Joseph and Celtic were it was 2-0, but I think the keeper that day was outstanding for them. I think it may have been that Jilts guy again. I don't know, but Celtic, it was 2-0, but Celtic were by far the better team. Yeah. It was different planet for them.
It was, man. But
Blackpool, they got him for, I think.
What's that?
It was, Matt Jilts was
at
Blackpool in the Premier League.
He was quite a good goalkeeper when he was at Blackpool. I remember when his name
one of those
popped up.
English guys that played for Scotland, wasn't he? Had the Scotland caps, but he was English born. I'm sure he was one of the ones that got a few caps for Scotland. But he played for Blackpool definitely in the year they were in the Premier League. He was definitely their goalkeeper. But one thing from the semi-final as well that we need to remember is Rangers have got another new manager at this point. It's not Graham Murray that's in the dugout. It's smooth-talking Portuguese ace of a manager, Pedro Caixinha. Rangers think they pulled a fast one getting him in. I'll tell you what, Rangers fans were fuming because he's only just in the door, really. And at the end of that game, he's seen having a good joke and a laugh as he's shaking hands with Brendan Rodgers. I'll tell you what, a week later when we played them at Ibrox, they'd have even more reason to be fucking fuming. Because, we go there for the final league game of the season. Title's pretty much all wrapped up now. But, we just fucking toy with them that day. We are just having an absolute banter. We end up beating them 5-1 on their own turf. The game starts up with, remember, what was it? What was the boy's first name? His second name was Bierman, the left back that they had for a short time.
See, America.
What's his first name again?
But I think you're talking about.
Yeah, basically they thought that he was going to be like a Kieran Tierney-esque player. He gives away a penalty really clumsily in the first few minutes. John Beaton, I mean, it's a Stonewall penalty, but John Beaton had to go and consult with his linesman just to be sure. Comes back, penalty. Scott Sinclair tucks it away. Ends up getting racially abused from the crowd for his troubles. And also in amongst those celebrations, a fan jumps over the advertising audience and tries to get to Scott Brown. A lot of media silence around that one. Lee Griffiths then makes it 2-0 with an absolute thunderbolt of a goal. And then he runs over to the corner flag at Ibrox and basically claims it just by resting on it like that. Remember the goal celebration? He just basically says,
no,
that was Linfield. We played Linfield in the Champions League qualifier. And as he was taking corners, he was going over and doing that with his nose and then wiping it on the corner flag. But he was definitely antagonising them that night. But he did love to wind up. But he made it 2-0. And then we, of course, get the hilarious moment when Kenny Miller goes for a loose ball and Jozo Siminovic absolutely cleans him out, but wins the ball. He actually wins the ball. We get the hilarious Tom Miller commentary. Not to worry, we'll take it to the SFA next week. Now, remember that we broke up the park from that and hit the crossbar? Remember what a goal that would have been? I wish that had gone in. So much. Because it came literally from that tackle that Siminovic won. It would have been the biggest insult enough to go and score from that. But of course, we did get a third goal eventually. Carol McGregor again passing into the net just early in the second half, just finds the far corner. And then 4-0, Dedrick Boyata, the rebuff. Dedrick Boyata, he's came back onto the scene and is fitting in well with Brendan's team. He scores a header from a Lee Griffiths free kick. And amongst the celebrations from that as well, down at the corner next to the broom lawn, a battery from a megaphone gets thrown because there's the image of Lee Griffiths standing there with the battery and it's about that size. And he's like looking up at the Rangers fans like, what the hell? But again, a lot of media silence on that one. Kenny Miller pulls one back for Rangers down at the Copeland Road end, which is basically just blue seats now. There's like nobody left. So it was 4-1. But then...
That one, Peter. Phil. I don't know if Peter was. Remember Celtic fans cheered that goal? Remember? I was at that game. Did you go?
No, I mean, I've never been at Ibrox. I've never set foot in Ibrox.
Oh,
Nope,
so you see that
never.
goal went in? It was like oh, hey, and it was like a wee tune. They played that tune and then stopped it. Now sometimes when you get a celebration goal tune, they played it and then stopped it almost instantly. And the Celtic fans are like, whatever the tune was, they just carried it on. It was a wee bit of a laugh. I remember, right? Aye.
But it was just a sea of blue seats in the Copeland Road end at that point. And then, of course, just add insult into a guy that they properly hate. If you ask many Rangers fans at that point, who in the Celtic team do you really hate? Obviously, Scott Brown would be number one. But Mikael Lustig was always pretty high on the list. And yeah, he picks up the ball, a loose ball on the edge of the area, weaves past one or two players, and then bends into the far corner to make it 5-1. The ultimate insult. And I think Tom Miller said, well, I suggest he'll enjoy that one tonight. And he certainly did. 5-1 at Ibrox. What a way to end our series with Rangers that season. Yikes, that's how you deal with noisy neighbours. That's how you do it.
Class, man. I remember, so my young brother, he was sitting in the row in front of me, but at Ibrox, you just storm where you want to storm. It's strange. But I ended up bumping into a guy I know, Barry, and I remember like the 90th minute, I said to him, like, if you want to get a photo of that 5-1 on the scoreboard for your Facebook or whatever, I said, take that in now. I said, because see the minute that whistle goes, they're going to press delete on that. And sure enough, mate, see as soon as the whistle went, it just went, everything just got switched off, the scoreboard, because that's a bit of a souvenir for the Celtic fans for their profile pictures or their avatars or something. But I managed to get one, so on my Instagram. That was a great day, mate, and I was just class, got to the ring run and beating them 5-1, and that was another one. It could have been 6 or 7. I remember there was a chance for Sinclair, I'm pretty sure, at the back post when it was 2-0, and he had it just, it was like an open goal, and he had it just by the post. And Celtic were gone at them like rabbit dogs, man. They were just poof, poof, and then see if that went in. It was just, we would have crushed them that day. I know 5-1's a crushing, but we'd have killed them that day, honestly. I think the North would have stopped the match. We could see when Griffiths scored quickly. All that scene was, I thought it was like, it looked like no glitter, but almost like silvery, like ticker tape hitting the sun doing it to corner. It wasn't until like a minute or so later I realised it was like coins and bits of debris getting flung at him. And then it was just at that point he was kind of running away, and that's when that guy ran on the park, as you said.
Aye.
And do you know something? There was media silence, the same as last year when, do you remember Turnbull they got hit with was it a ball throw or a coffee or something like that, taking a corner at Ibrox, and everyone mentioned that in the papers.
Aye.
They did not have people on the guarding the posts at that game.
That was a wee guy. That's a wee guy that goes to all the
Brogues. The Brogues.
Aye, that's right. He was very football, but he still does it. He'd be a steward. I don't know if he's expecting to get a game sometime. I don't know what his story is with that. But the guy,
the stone steward, he guards the sounds like that, guarding the posts, because Griffiths used to tie the scarf in it.
There's a funny picture of him. See when Kyogo scored the second goal against Hibs, the lob last season. There's a funny photo of him. There must be a thing when if the one team scores and you're guarding the fans, the stewards need to push out, and you see them surround the park quickly. You see, they're kind of rush. There's a video of him. And he's the first one out the traps to go and guard the fans or guard the players from the fans, and you see his face for tripping him when Kyogo scores that goal. He's just standing there and he's like that, you could just tell, oh fuck, here we go again, you know what I mean? I need to endure another bit of this.
Well, we've definitely poked fun enough at Rangers so far this one. So the final aggregate basically against Rangers for that season. And I've said this before, I said this last week, keep in mind, despite how bad we were in the early 90s, I don't think we had a game where Rangers came to Celtic Park and put 5 past us. But the final aggregate between Celtic and Rangers for that season was we played them 6 times, 4 in the league, 2 in the cup. Celtic won 3 of the league games and drew 1, won both the cup games. Celtic scored 16 goals, Rangers scored 4. They were going for 55, remember, and don't let them tell you otherwise, because they did believe it. The propaganda definitely suggests that at the start of the season. Now, so that's taken up a massive chunk of the show, but we will quickly go on to the next part, because other than bodying Rangers that season, another massive story was we're back in the big time, and by big time I mean the Champions League, because one of the remits and Brendan Rodgers' job description going into this season would have been get them back into the Champions League. That's why we brought a manager at his level in. And looking back doing my research, this was a slog. By the way, we limped through this this qualifying campaign because we started, as I mentioned earlier on, we had a quite infamous game against Lincoln Red Imps from Gibraltar in the first qualifying round, and we lost the first game 1-0 quite early. I guess we can sort of laugh, but I wasn't laughing at the time. But yeah, we ended up losing that. But I did think at the time, even after, I thought, see, we get back to Celtic Park, we'll do them. We'll do them, no bother. There was never any danger for me. We're going to go out. So I say it's a wee bit of a bruise to the ego, but ultimately we're never in danger. We beat them 3-0 in the second leg, moved on. Then we were sent to the outer reaches of Europe to play in Kazakhstan against Astana. And after a 1-1 draw out there, we come back to Celtic Park. Now, guys, do you remember the goal that we lost that night at Celtic Park where Craig Gordon was caught doing a David Marshall? He was about 40 yards to goal. I think he came out to win. It was like a long ball bounced and he came out and won a header and headed it right to an Astana player, and he just lobbed him right from like about 40 yards. It was
It's a classic Celtic in Europe.
Night?
Sorry?
Did we get 2 penalties that night? The first goal a penalty or not? Aye, I thought so.
We did, mate.
Aye, because then obviously in the last minute, Dembele gets a penalty as the 90th minute, and yeah, he steps up, puts it away, and we end up winning 2-1 on the night, 3-2 in that game. We're through, and then we draw in the playoff round. An Israeli team named Hapoel Beersheva, who I'd never ever heard of until this exact point when we drew them. But yeah, the first leg at Celtic Park is going pretty well, all things considered. We're 3-0 up by half-time, and you're like, right, we can start, getting the passports out. Here we go. We're heading into the Champions League. And within the first 10 minutes of the second half, we conspire to lose 2 goals to suddenly do that classic Celtic thing where everything's going well, and suddenly, oh God, squeaky bum time. But then, amazingly, we find another 2 goals, and topped off by Scott Brown scoring 1 late on to make it 5-2 on aggregate. So you're thinking, right, we're going out there with a 3-goal advantage. Of course, away goals were still a thing at this point. But you're like, a 3-goal advantage. We've got to be through, surely. But of course, Celtic don't travel very well in Europe at the best of times. So yeah, out in Israel, I mean, our asses collapsed. That is one of the most uncomfortable 90 minutes of football I have ever watched. Saidi Yanko that night was on a mission to cost us that game, playing at right back. He was having a shocker, but barely anybody was having a good game that night. We were so off it. We were 2-0 down. Craig Gordon, though, achieved a rarity for him. He saved a penalty. Could have been 3-0 on the night, but he did manage to save a penalty to keep us in it. But the relief on the players' faces, and more so Brendan Rodgers at the end with the celebrations when we got there, winning 5-4 on aggregate in the end. I say, looking back and doing my research for this, I was like, wow, that qualifying campaign was a lot harder than I remember. It was a uncomfortable few rounds we had to navigate there. But that Beersheva game, I still get nightmares thinking about Saidi Yanko's performance that night. He was all over the shop.
Was it 2-0? I thought we had scored. Was it 2-0? Aye,
2-0. One of the goals is Craig Gordon comes to collect a cross, and Saidi Yanko bumps into him because he turns around and bumps into Yanko, and the ball rolls into the net. It was like,
Gordon. See, when anybody mentions Craig Gordon to me, like we done him dirty by letting him go. I just think back to the Inter Milan game where he flung 2 in the back of the net. The Fenerbahce game, I think that game, I think all the times that he was just early camp in Europe, I just go, nah, he was good for the odd world class save, but he was heartening with stuff sometimes. That guy, he really was. I think a lot of folk just pretend he was really good, but normally that's just fans that like to prove a point. I don't think he was. I think, well, put it this way, Scott Bain displaced him for a full season, so that's all I'm going to say.
I don't think he was a good team player. I always remember, any time a fullback made a mistake, it was always, you knew they were always going to score for it. It was never the, okay, shit, Craig will help us out with this one. It was almost like, see what I've told you. It's like he never looked like he was angry for him making a mistake, but no saving it, And I never liked that part about his game.
When Craig Gordon used to remember that Celtic took a punt on him. We revived his career. That boy was never going to play again. I remember when we signed him, I was a bit like, oh, okay, this is the boy whose wrist didn't work.
Was it Rangers training, when he tried to get himself back to fitness?
Aye, and then he signed for us. Because I mean, I do think domestically he put on a good performance, but he was definitely found wanting in Europe. That's where he had a lot of clangers. There were games where he did have some alright ones in Europe. I can remember a game against Salzburg where under Ronnie, where Castle scored for us. But we were under the cosh, we drew 2-2 that night, and he pulled off a few blinders. He did have his moments, but his biggest clangers always came in Europe. Again, against Salzburg, there was the one, they beat us 3-1, I think, or 2-1 at Celtic Park, and he goes to roll the ball out, and the striker just basically takes it right off him. It was like what Karius did in the Champions League final to Benzema, where he rolled it right to Benzema's feet, and he just tapped it in. He'd done that, so he did have some absolute clangers. But I say domestically, he was a decent enough keeper, but he was found wanting a lot of times on European nights, especially, I mean, I say that. That Beersheva one, I see him and Sadie Yanko bump into each other. But I see he does end up redeeming himself. I think his only time he actually saved a penalty that we conceded in a game was that night. And of all times to do it, my God, what a picture a moment there, because it ended up being crucial in the end. And of course, that also meant that Scott Brown's goal at Celtic Park ended up being crucial because it was the difference in the end. 5-4 on aggregate and we're through. But then the Champions League draw comes around, guys, and we draw Borussia Mönchengladbach, Manchester City, and our good old pals Barcelona, who we just love playing in Europe. You know, that whole more than a club thing, Celtic and Barcelona, best pals. Well, I think it's more from our side. We think we're best pals with Barca. I think they just like bodying us most of the time in the Champions League. Because, yeah, they certainly did fucking body us in this one, because that's the first game of this group stage. We're going to be travelling to the new camp. And in the run-up to it, I can remember Brendan Rodgers getting asked a lot of questions about what will his approach be. Will he try and be a bit more pragmatic? And he was very bullish about it, saying, no, I'll still set up how, you know, I would play against, say, Hamilton Accies or Kilmarnock. He was very adamant that he was still going to try and have a go. Ended up losing 7-0 on the night. And I genuinely remember there were points where they were scoring and it was almost like their players were laughing as they were scoring because it was a training exercise. I think Messi scores a hat-trick. Neymar definitely scored. He was obviously loving it. But, yeah, there was generally points where like Messi just had a big smile on his face, like he can't believe how easy it's been. Just as, but the funniest bit about it is when we were 1-0 down in this game, we actually got a penalty and could have made it 1-1 at one point, but Dembele missed the penalty. But yeah, they went on and absolutely bodied us 7-0. What was that?
A real change that season meant that they couldn't send the keeper off, because the keeper was like somebody like last man, and if you can't do double jeopardy by getting a penalty and a red card. But see, the season before that, it would have been down to 10 men straight away and the penalty. But they changed the rules that summer to say that you couldn't get a red card and a penalty, like for one.
Oh, right. Okay.
And but for that, I mean, if for talking sake, it's hypothetical, but can you imagine if it was down to 10 men and we got equaliser, that could have been another Celtic night for us.
I mean, it's one of the sliding doors moments, but we ended up going 7-0. Doris de Vries was in goal for that game as well, because again, this came at the point when Rodgers was adamant he was going to make Doris de Vries the new goalkeeper. Funny enough, do you remember when de Vries had signed, there was a lot of rumours going around that he was about to bring in a goalkeeper he'd worked with before, and most people put 2 and 2 together and thought it was going to be Michel Vorm. Remember, he was a Swansea keeper, and that's what I thought. I believed that. I was like, that'd be a good one, because he was doing nothing at Tottenham at that point. He was clearly the second choice at Tottenham Hotspur, and I was like, Vorm, that would be a good one. And then Doris de Vries rocked up, and I was like, oh, what? Aye.
Yeah, I thought that too. I'd even a class signing. I still don't know why we didn't even ask the question.
Turned out Doris de Vries was in goal for Dunfermline when we beat them in 2007 when John Joe Perry-Adumbe scored the winning goal in the cup final. Doris de Vries was in goal for Dunfermline. But I've been at Nottingham Forest, been released on a free transfer. And I say all the clues where you were hearing all these cryptic clues, all these tweets flying around that he's going to bring in a goalkeeper he's worked with before. Well, Michel Vorm's not doing anything at Tottenham, surely it's him. No, Doris de Vries, and 7-0 that night in the new camp. Yeah, it wasn't going to get much better for poor Doris. But then the next game, and then even after it, Brendan was obviously put on the spot again about, your approach, will you change it? And again, he was still very adamant that, no, I'm going to keep playing this way. And he shocked many people, because in the next game, Man City came to town, and at that point, Man City had won every game they played that season at every competition. So they were a bit of a juggernaut coming to Celtic Park, but Celtic went toe-to-toe with them that night, and it ended up being easily one of the best games I've ever attended. I was absolutely out of breath by the end of this game. It was phenomenal. Just seeing Celtic going toe-to-toe with a top English team, I thought Man City were a joy to watch. I know Man City get a lot of flack for the lack of soul and the fan base and stuff like that. I just think that the real fans have kind of just been priced out of it now, and they have become a tourist club. Man City have actually got a huge following from like when they were down in the doldrums in the lower divisions. They did have a big following, but modern day football, they've just kind of turned into a big modern franchise now. So they're just full of touristy fans, but they were a joy to watch that night. Phenomenal to see him, but Celtic just were like, nah, we were just going to go out here. And Dembele scored 2. Another one, I think, well, Tierney, it was his shot was deflected in off Raheem Sterling. For City, it was Fernandinho, Sterling, and Nolito that scored for them. But that game was phenomenal, and I think it was topped off as well by Dembele's the overhead kick that he did in the second half. First attack of the second half, we just come out. Cross comes in, controls it, back to goal, and he overhead kicks it into the net, into Claudio Bravo. It was pure bedlam in the stands, but we just couldn't hold on, man, against them. They just kept pegging us back. Every time we took the lead, they just would go up the park and score.
Am I right in saying that was Pep's first season at Man City?
Mhm.
It was, wasn't it?
It might have
2016?
been. It might have been because I think it was Pellegrini that was in charge the season before.
Yeah, so I remember, obviously, like you said, they were winning absolutely everything. Nobody could lay a glove on them, and that was like, I was trying to get to my mate's house to watch the game, and I nipped into Tesco to grab some drinks, and obviously we scored quite early on, didn't we?
We did. We scored early from a free.
And obviously it went round Tesco, like everyone was like, Celtic are winning, Celtic are winning, and I was like, excuse me, I didn't see you say Celtic are winning. It was like one of those moments because of how dominant City had been. Like we were all just expecting an absolute drumming, and so even just to hear that we were winning at like so early on into the game was like almost like a time had stopped for a wee second for me. I was like, did I just hear you right? And yeah, you're right. It was such a frustrating moment because it's like we're playing out our skin, we're scoring, but we just at that point in time we just could not stop conceding goals.
Mm-hmm.
And it was mental to think that we're so frustrated after the best team in the UK. We managed to get a draw against them, and I felt I couldn't help but feel frustrated. I mean, to score 3 goals against Man City and still not come away with the 3 points was crazy. But it's funny to think that it was almost as if Brendan had shown all the teams down south that's how you take it to City.
Aye,
because they went on that. They began to drop points right after that. That's it's as if they went right. Okay, so that's what we need to do.
Chelsea won the league that season in 16-17. Chelsea went on and won it under Antonio Conte. City were way back, but yeah, they started the season unbelievably, won every game they played up to they played us, and then we took points off them. But you were right, just go toe to toe with them, and fair enough, man. Fair enough, good, Brendan, because that was phenomenal, man. That was an amazing game, but we were blown out of our arse in the last 15 minutes. I can remember being under the caution. If it wasn't for a good Craig Gordon save from Ilkay Gundogan quite late on, it was going right to the top corner, this one, and he tipped it over the bar. But yeah, we were out on our feet with the last 15 minutes. The way City were just passing it around us, but we got out of there.
I was exhausted after that match. I kicked every ball, and I didn't want to leave the stadium. I could have fell asleep on my seat, honestly. And I think that was the last European game. As you all know, I'm not a big European football fan. You all know that, but that was the last European game I really enjoyed. That was a phenomenal match. You know what I mean? And I thought that was an outstanding performance. But I still think we could have won the match. I know that sounds silly, but see if I actually think back, I mean, Man City had more chances than us, but I thought Celtic on another night did enough to win the match. I mean, a couple of goals they gave away, I felt like they could have done better away, but Swanee ones, and I felt like they could have won the away match.
Liam, what was your memories of that one, mate?
I thought we came out flying after getting humped 7-0 off of Barcelona. I wasn't expecting much. The amount of press bumping them up about this new, Pep system and how they're just ravaging teams and all that. I thought, we were going to get absolutely battered here. But no, I loved it. I thought the fans came out. It's funny, I saw a thing with, was it Grundogan, how you say his name? Something in
Aye,
social.
okay, Gundogan.
He was on social media this week, and they were interviewing him. He was asking him the best experience he's ever had in his career. Celtic Park. That's what he is.
There you
But
go.
that night,
There's
it's
another one.
another one, right? Add him to the list as well. I thought,
Add
You know
him to
what?
the list, yep.
You're saying there, Liam. You know what you're saying though, Liam, is that because a lot of people have said that, and you kind of go, oh, they're just saying it because they're talking to the Scottish papers. But if you go back and watch the YouTube video of the lineup, and when the Champions League music plays and the crowd goes, look at his face. Just look at his face, and his jaw it hits the ground, and he's got that. He's almost got a grin on his face. Like, he's taking it all in, so you can totally, like, I believe every word he says in that interview that is one of his best moments, because his face doesn't lie in that moment. When you watch it back on YouTube, he cannot believe he's just soaking it all in. It's almost as if, like, he's, when you're watching an actor and they break out of character. That's kind of what it's like. It's like he breaks, focus, stay focused. Camera pans past him, crowd goes crazy. He just completely breaks that sort of character, and he just it's like he's like a fan. He just like becomes a football fan in the moment. It's so I believe everybody said in that interview. It was genuine, I think.
Sterling looked a bit worried. He looked. If you remember Sterling's face as the camera was panning by, he was like that.
Aguero as well. Aguero's almost like, Jesus, he's proper. I wouldn't say intimidated, because obviously they played in some stadiums with a lot of atmosphere and big crowds and stuff. But I think that old cliche, like it's Celtic Park on a European night, like it does do something. Yeah. I just wish it would do something a bit more with the results.
It's just funny hearing you say that though when you're talking about it, and obviously we've got the Champions League Cup this year. You're saying names like Gundogan, Sterling, Aguero, and it's like, we're going to see players of that ilk again. But this is the thing, we've got to get that mindset away as Celtic fans and go, do you know what? I don't give a fuck who's coming to the stadium. We're going to fucking get in about them. And Gundogan's going to fuel more of the whole. So there's a core of Celtic fans out there that love all that, where they hear other clubs and other fans talking about the great experience they had at Celtic Park. We're going to have to change that this year. We're going to have to change it. But one thing that always sticks out about that really frustrates me, again, this is a modern football trope, because kits and sponsors and that. Man City, despite wearing blue, that doesn't clash with us at all. They wore that double-decker kit that night, the orange and purple. It looked like a Cadbury. Is it Cadbury's that do them? Double-decker? That's generally what it looked like. And it's like, where's the colour clash in that? Why are they wearing their away kit? I remember years ago we played Man United, the one that we drew one each, and Man United wearing a blue kit that night, and it's like, why? So again, it's all sponsorship, isn't it? They've got to wear it X number of times.
No, the Ferguson, was there not something to do with Ferguson asked for that? Did Ferguson not arrange it to wear blue that night? Yeah, I'm pretty sure I read that or seen that. Ferguson had asked for it to wear blue.
McLaughlin's quite good with this stuff. He'll come in the chat probably and confirm that one, because he's quite good with the old the facts and figures. Now, after that 3-each draw, you're thinking, okay, that's a positive result. After the Barcelona debacle, because the goal difference doesn't matter in Champions League groups. It's all about record against. So it's like, right, even though we've got like a -7 goal difference, we'll be fine. We've got a point on the board. We're playing Mönchengladbach now in the doubleheader, and the next game's at Celtic Park. We've just got a point against Manchester City, the all-conquering Man City. Surely, to Christ, we'll get a result here. But no. Mönchengladbach come to Celtic Park, and they pretty much cruise it. I don't know if it was just fan attitude going into it. We're just like, we'll beat this team, they bother. But they made it look easy that night. I can remember Tierney in particular down the left had a bit of a horrible time against their winger, just constant 1-2 passes around them. And obviously the man who is pretty much at the centre of everything that went wrong that day was Cole Touré. Because this game and another one that's not too far after it was pretty much the signs that he was done. But we get just ragdolled that night by Mönchengladbach. A lot of people just underestimated them. At the end of the day, they're a Bundesliga team, sort of top 5, top 6 level Bundesliga, and they just rolled into Celtic Park. Just didn't even get out of second gear, made it look easy. But then amazingly, the second leg though, we could have won the second leg, because again, Celtic don't travel well in Europe. But we got a credible 1-1 draw, though at that point in the group, it's kind of like, we need a wee bit more. But guys, how did you feel, though, when Callum McGregor sliced that one just past it? Not really sliced it, but I think he cut it just a bit too fine, and it just went by the post. It was, if that had gone in, obviously we could have snuck away with a 2-1 victory, but man, it was heartbreaking, because we gave our all that night, man. We were really, we were so close to getting the points on the board.
Aye. I think he almost had it hit the ball too cleanly.
Mm.
He was going through the angle and use his kind of instep and just kind of like, it was almost, I'm sure, with a pretty similar chance with Kai Stephen at San Siro. I think it was.
Yep.
We should have won. I think that was the 90th or 91st minute. It was very late on, and that was the winner. I think they got a poor sent off that night. I know. I'm pretty sure it was. But I know, because if we'd won that, I think that would have gave us a chance of finishing third.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
yep.
In fact, we would have finished third because that would have took us 5 points, maybe 6.5 points, and that would have been enough.
We got 3 points, 3 draws. So if we got a win, that would have gave us 6 points because we got a point against Gladwell. A point. We would have got 5. We would have 5 because that point would have turned into a win. So 5 points probably could have got us through then in the end. Oh man, but
unlucky, mate. Unlucky.
Aye, was. But you just mentioned Mackay Stephen there because seeing the last game, he could have been the unlikely goal hero because obviously Barcelona turned up for game number 5 and beat us 2-0 quite convincingly, quite comfortable. Messi scored both of them. So I remember that game as well for Neymar. Being Neymar, him and Mikel Lustig had a wee bit of a disagreement, and he got basically subbed off before he gets sent off because he was just being the annoying wee naff that he is. But yeah, Barca rolled out of town, beat us 2-0. But we're going into the last game. We're effectively out now. There's nothing we can really do. And because of UEFA's rulings, Patrick Roberts was allowed to play against Man City, his parent club. And he actually scored to give us the lead, but we were quickly pegged back by Kelechi Iheanacho, scored the equaliser for Man City. But yeah, late on, Gary Mackay-Steven could have won it for us. He was through on goal. And just didn't get a shot at all. And Caballero and goal saved it to put it by the post. So in the end, we finished with getting 2 points out of Man City, home and away, a point away in Mönchengladbach. And then, we finished on 3 points, bottom of the group, out of Europe. So everything's going well domestically, but definitely found to be very out of our depth in Europe, which would be a bit of a trope under Brendan Rodgers. And even when he was a Liverpool manager, there was a lot of iffy results in Europe with a team like that. So, that was kind of like pretty much a microcosm really of how things were under Brendan Rodgers when he was Celtic manager.
You say we're out of depth, which I think we are in general, but if that last minute goal with Carl McGregor goes in, we could have finished third, you know what I mean? In a group that contained Barcelona, Man City and Gladbach. That's a hard group, mate. And
that's a hard
group. I mean, we weren't that far away, let's be totally honest. And just that's all I wanted to say on that, mate.
That's fair dues. So we'll quickly move on. Just a very quick one I wanted to bring up. I'll just quickly describe this one rather than go into too much depth on it, because obviously, Mark, I know you're pushed for time tonight. But we will... Motherwell Madness, the game I think that sticks in everybody's mind this season is the 4-3 victory over Motherwell in December of 2016, because even though we went on and had the undefeated season, it felt like, when you're looking back on it, the only time it was ever in danger domestically wasn't a game against Rangers, wasn't against Aberdeen or Hearts. It was against Motherwell, because just a week after wrapping up the League Cup, we travelled through to Fir Park, and this is effectively the game that Kolo Touré, that he was done at the Gladbach game, but this was the one that cemented it, because after just a matter of minutes, Louis Moult puts Motherwell 1-0 up. It's a big long ball up the park. Kolo Touré's maybe marking Moult. He's completely sleeping as he goes through and hits it on the volley to lob it over Craig Gordon, puts them 1-0. And then he makes it 2-0 midway through the half. A cross comes in for the left. And again, Touré's maybe picking Moult up, doesn't get him, headed at the back post, and it goes for 2-0 down at half time. It's not looking too good. But then, second half, we begin the comeback. Callum McGregor scores just early in the second half to get us back into it 2-1. And then suddenly Patrick Roberts makes it 2. We have a mad 3-minute spell coming up in the 70th minute. Patrick Roberts equalises with a header at the back post to make it 2-2. And then Motherwell kick off and go literally right up the park in the 71st minute and make it 3-2 through Ainsworth. And then we kick off, and in the 72nd minute, Stuart Armstrong equalises to make it 3 apiece. An absolutely delicious pass, though, for Patrick Roberts. Stuart Armstrong gets on the end of it and just slides it past the goalkeeper to make it 3 apiece. But the game's obviously whittling down near the end. Given how we've been 2-0 down at one point in the game, you're like, well, a point is fine. It keeps the undefeated record going. We're well ahead in the league at this point anyway, so we're all happy with it. But no, Tom Rogic wasn't happy with just a point. Tom Rogic picks the ball up on the edge of the box, weaves past a few defenders, and even though he's left-footed, he decides to go for it on his right foot. He thinks, nah, I'm going for this here. and he finds the far corner and absolute scenes erupt. I mean, one of the guys sits next to me at Celtic Park. He goes to all the away games and still says this is probably up there as like one of the best ones he's ever been to. That absolute mayhem in the away end behind the goal. What a moment. But again, it just summed up that Celtic team that season. That was just a pure enthralling game. But quickly just going the table, memories of that one, guys.
I was there, mate, and the guy was right. It was pandemonium.
Oh, aye. First-hand account. David, what about you watching that one?
To be honest, mate, I didn't actually see that one.
You missed it, mate. You missed it.
It was. I have to admit, I didn't see that one. So I just remember my mate messaging me though, like the scores coming through. Phone was just going off constantly as he was trying to keep me up to date. So I was sweating just looking at my phone screen. But yeah, to be honest, I didn't see it. So I can't say too much on how it was. I'm afraid.
Yeah, sure does. And Liam, again, this was one of those ones you've been happy, got up really early in the morning, but that's a hell of a way to start your day, mate, watching that one.
It's exhausting. I was exhausted when it was done.
Right back to your bed after it.
No, I was too excited. But there was a few games like that, where we came back, but that was definitely the one that stood out. And I think that was a shift with us as well too. Then I felt invincible. Then it was starting to look like we're putting together, something good here. This team started to gel, and I was excited because that was coming up to the window as well. And so you're thinking, who's Rodgers going to bring in that's going to help add to this momentum? And we found out.
Kwasi Abui. That's your lot. That's all you're getting.
A lot.
A lying bastard, David.
I just remember that interview because I am like a lion.
I remember that too.
So good. I remember that.
And I'm like, I'm buying in. I'm like, yes. Here we go.
I'm all in. Do that. He's saying all the right things. I'm on this guy's side. Never seen him play before, but I'm on his side. He gets it. He gets it. Just play all that.
He gets it.
Did we not announce him with his name rang as well? Did we not announce him as Kwasi Abui? I'm sure we announced him and then his name was already about or something.
Okay.
That springs to me as well, you know what I mean?
Did we get him from Russia?
Yeah, it was Krasnodar we signed him from.
Yeah.
Russian team.
Like
£3 million or something like that. And
he looked like he was had all the right things there. That's like, this guy is going to be a baller. He was quite injury prone the way. But he never, even when he got his chance, I think there was only the one game that he really, really stood out, and that was that European game against
Zenit.
Yeah, unbelievable performance. And, then we go and blow it in the second leg.
He had insider knowledge about Zenit. He played in Russia, remember? He had insider knowledge, mate. That's how he played so well against them. He knew what they were all about. That's it. So we'll move on now, and I say the Rogic goal at the end of that game was kind of foreshadowing because he would score probably a more famous last-minute goal in the final game of the season because, we'd wrapped up the League Cup, winning 3-0 against Aberdeen in December. We then wrapped up the league title. We officially won it, I believe, at Tynecastle with a pure banging performance. Scott Sinclair scored a hat-trick and we beat them 5-0 or 5-1, I think it was. And then we wrapped up the domestic season unbeaten, the league season, with a victory over Hearts on the last day, beating them 2-0. There was a full stadium display from the Green Brigade as well on that day, because it was also the anniversary of, it would be 2017, so 1967, so it would be 50th anniversary, I believe. Just quick maths there. But yeah, we had the full Lisbon Lions tifo as well, and yeah, we go into... What's that?
Remember the fire brigade showed up at the stadium, remember? Because of the flares?
That's right. The fan in the Green Brigade section came through the flares. He had the two flares in his hand. That looked amazing, though. It looked so good. It's class, honestly, the rules on the whole flare thing, but with no surprise for the authority in this country. But yeah, we've done that. So we're on the verge of history here because trebles have been won before in Scottish football. Celtic have won trebles. But we've never done it undefeated. No team's done it this way, winning the League Cup, Scottish Cup, and going undefeated in the league as well. So we're on the verge of history here. We're going to be playing the second place team in the country, Aberdeen, in the final. And you're like, surely we've come this far. We're not going to fall at the last hurdle, are we? Surely it can't go wrong. But yeah, it is an absolute rain-soaked day at Hampden. It's muggy hot, so there's thunderstorms in the air as well, which would be crucial as well. That would play a part. But yeah, I managed to get a ticket for this one because this is when the home cup ticket scheme really began to ramp up, because when Rodgers came in, the demand for tickets was huge, because I got to all sorts of games at Hampden during Lenny's spell and Ronnie. But when Brendan Rodgers came in, it became more balloted. And because I never got a ticket for the semi-final against Rangers, I never got one for the final against him. But I got tickets for the League Cup ones, because I think they've done it on a sort of, if you get to this final, the next final, you won't be in the ballot for it. So it's kind of like to split the fans up. But we managed to get tickets basically through a friend of a friend at the last minute. But I was sitting in a different section of the stadium from my dad. He was in the upper tier of the south stand. I was in the lower tier. But it turned out there was actually 2 empty seats next to me the entire game. So I was like, fuck's sake, man, you know? 2 empty seats the entire time. What a waste. What a waste. 2 people missed out on this absolute moment.
Well,
but yeah, what was that?
Oh, I am sorry. What I've got a story about that, because I've mentioned it before on the Richard Gordon show we did. That I got 2 tickets, and I had to go on holiday, and I was in the airport when they scored and they equalised, but my flight took off I was just into the second half. But I'll tell you again in case anybody missed it. But my iPad cut off in the 87th minute, 88th minute. I'll tell you about that. And I sat for about 2 hours on that flight, no knowing the score. It was a horrific flight. She always mentions how probably the worst 2 hours of her life, because I was not a nice person to be around about. Vodka. I was just drinking. Eventually, the pilot. I was sitting at the very first seat, and the pilot came out. Full Celtic tracksuit on. And, the guy's like, "Are you happy with that?" I said, "Oh, what happened?" He's like, "Oh, I don't know what happened, but I know he's won 3-2. He's got a goal in the last minute," and I just went mental. And then, as I was getting off the plane, turns out, I don't know how, but it turns out some guy had watched the full Celtic game on his iPad, and then had watched Arsenal Chelsea, and there's an FA Cup final the same day on his iPad after it, and I was like, hang on a minute, you must have heard me and moaning about not knowing the score and all the rest of it, and I'm sitting with Celtic tracks on and thinking myself into a coma, and fucking the guy must have just sat there, I'm not telling this cunt to score, but and I'll never ever forget that, mate. And just quickly again, the following season when we won 5-0 to win the league, I took the holiday again, and I missed that match. My ex and Wayne had to go to the game, but so see the Tom Logic goal. It's got bittersweet memories for me. It's like,
okay,
I experienced it, but I didn't, because I seen the goal 4 years later through a dodgy Wi-Fi signal in an airport.
Oh man, what a moment as well. But yeah, the game, as I say, it's a wet, horrible day at Hampden, but I say it's muggy hot. So there's a bit of thunder and lightning in the air. But the game starts off terribly for Celtic. So in the first 10 minutes, Johnny Hayes, who would go on to play for Celtic the next season, he volleys one in at a corner, just lands nicely on his foot, and he just batters it into the net from inside the penalty area. And again, you're getting that thought in your head. You're like, oh no, we've come this far. Are we actually going to blow this now? Are we actually going to make a mess of this? So anxiety is already starting to set in. I know I was feeling that. The guy next to me was just all game. He was just like, oh, we're going to fuck this. But he was so paranoid that we were going to blow it. He's like, I knew this was going to happen, man. Fuck's sake, man. We've came this far. I knew this is going to happen to us. But luckily, just a minute after conceding, just a bit like the Motherwell game, Stuart Armstrong pops up and gets an equaliser. So Celtic can finally get a foothold in the game, get their fucking heads right. Because they've started the game terribly, but they've got a reprieve now. They've got it back to 1-1, and it's right. Now this game can start. But then Jayden Stockley, the Aberdeen striker, elbows Kieran Tierney horribly, injures him so badly, he breaks his jaw, and Tierney has to go off injured, goes to the hospital. He would come back later on, though, full of all sort of medication as well, a bit lightheaded, but he did come back for the celebrations. But yeah, Stockley caught him terribly with an elbow, and he knew what he was doing, because you see the replays, and he does look for Tierney, and it's one of these things. See if a player clenches his fist when he throws the elbow, they've 100% meant it. See if it's an open hand and they've just threw the arm out, it's a bit slyer, but see when you see them actually close the fist, you know that he's meant it, and he 100% went to clean him out there. But yeah, Tierney goes off, but crucially, Tom Rogic comes on to replace him at that point in the game. Now, second half, Celtic are starting to get a bit of a foothold in it, but Aberdeen had a glorious chance to put us to this on, go 2-1 up, where Callum McGregor gets caught napping on the halfway line. Johnny Hayes dispossesses him, runs down the right-hand side and squares it across the goal, and Kenny McLean completely fluffs it in front of an empty net. And it's one of those, maybe the gods are shining upon us here, by the way. Like, my God, we should have paid the price there. But then Aberdeen seem to lose a bit of confidence, and Celtic are suddenly like, okay, we've got away with one there. And the next half hour or so, Celtic are just turning the screw. They're having all sorts of chances. Boyata misses one at a corner where he heads it over from close range. Patrick Roberts hit the post where he cut inside, bent it with his left foot, it clipped the post. And another one where Scott Sinclair, he gets one of the back goals. A cross comes in for Griffiths, and Sinclair goes to like volley it and completely fluffs it, just as Joe Lewis goes down to collect the ball. But yeah, Aberdeen are starting to fall out of the game. Celtic are the team in the ascendancy. And then we just, minutes, as we enter stoppage time, a big long ball up the park from, I think it may be Boyata. One of our defenders lumps up the park. Ash Taylor wins it in the air and heads it right to Stuart Armstrong, who quickly passes the ball to Tom Rogic about 40 yards for goal. He breezes past a corner, and then he's one-on-one with Andy Considine. He takes a wee sidestep onto his right-hand side. Now, just at this point, I'm sitting in the lower south stand, and this is where the lightning flash happens. People talk about the lightning flash, some sort of urban legend. Some people said it happened after the goal. It didn't. It happened just as he went to strike the ball, because I was sitting in the south stand and it was just over Tory Glen Asda. That's like the direction it was, like the northeast of the stadium. So I had a perfect eye line of it, and just as he pulled his leg back to shoot, the lightning went across the sky, and I briefly looked up for a second, and when I looked back down, the ball was in the back of the net, so I didn't actually see him kick it into the net. All I just saw was the ball rattling the net. But my God, absolute pandemonium in the stadium is, to me, maybe the best celebrations I've ever been involved in as a Celtic fan. Like, honestly, it was people crying around about you, you know, people on their knees actually like thanking the heavens, like, because to go to basically the last kick of the last game of the season to wrap up the treble, undefeated treble as well, to do it in that manner. And I just found it really poetic as well that the lightning strike happened just as he struck the ball. It was like, it was just written to happen. But yeah, Tom Rogic runs over to the fans, obviously in the south stand. It's a bedlam. There's the image of Craig Gordon dropping to his knees, you know, thanking the heavens like that. Oh my God. It's just an absolute moment.
It's that as well. The Rogic, when he's pulling at the shirt. That's such a good image, man.
It was like the scene for Platoon, you know, at the end. I think that helped, and I think that helped build his bond with the fans, seeing that as well too, because you know, we were all still a bit anti-Craig Gordon, you know, like the corner kicks and all that stuff before with Hearts and that. Like, to see him celebrating in that way, I think that made him feel more like made us feel like he was merely a Celtic player and good things were going to happen, you know. It was right.
Aye, definitely. But that wrapped up the Invincible treble. So Kieran Tierney came back for the celebrations, the famous image of him running up the steps outside Hampden, still in his Celtic kit. He's a bit lightheaded, to say the least, from the medication that he's on, from the painkillers and so forth, but he came back to join in the celebrations. And in the end, Celtic's league record, or the record for the whole season, was this: 38 league games, 34 wins, 4 draws, no losses, 106 points, 106 goals scored, 25 goals conceded. The League Cup, 4 victories, 11 goals scored, no goals conceded. Scottish Cup, 5 victories, 17 goals scored, 2 conceded. Scott Sinclair won the Player of the Year at the PFA and the SFWA. Kieran Tierney won the Young Player of the Year equivalent, and Brendan Rodgers won the Manager of the Year at both ceremonies. Amazingly, the only award Celtic didn't seem to win that season was the top scorer, which went to Liam Boyce of Ross County. 23 goals he scored that season. But yeah, that is the Invincible treble season. Now, a quick final word on it, guys. Is that season better than what we experienced last season? Because the way I look at it is, do you prefer, as a Celtic fan, I prefer winning the league, however we do it, is good. But do you prefer a season like that one, where it was a canter and you could put your feet up most of the way and just be like, it's a breeze? Or do you prefer the drama of how we done it under Ange last season, where it went pretty close to the wire? Or is it just a case of, don't really care as long as we win the league? Or
For me, it just goes game to game for me.
Mm.
I don't think about the bigger picture.
Yeah.
I just think about game to game. And for me personally, I don't know about the other two here, but for me personally, and actually, I was on holiday there when we won the league and all. I seen at Tannadice, I was bloody on holiday, watching it on an iPad in the hotel room. It was
Your
terrible.
timing's amazing, mate.
Oh, mate, honestly, man, honestly, bro. Because the day after the derby match, the one each game, just there, I flew on holiday next day. But anyway, to be honest with you, the treble season that one you talk about, that I enjoyed that season as much as any season under Martin O'Neill. That was just a joyous season for me, and I probably enjoyed that. But last season was more about. I was more relieved that we just put it there and just managed to pull it off rather than enjoyed it. You know, it was a bit of endurance.
Yeah, it was. Liam, what about yourself? Would you prefer have your feet up for the entire season, just have an absolute canter, or was last season the drama of it, the back and forth? What do you enjoy more?
I like the drama.
The drama.
But as Mark says as well, I agree with Mark as well. It's game by game and it all builds. You know, you're building storylines and all that as the season progresses. And as far as storylines and that gone last year, I think that was unbelievable. You know, what I liked about the treble was it showed you that we could still find a player, and it shows you that we could still create new stars. You know, like Tierney, the rise of McGregor, boys coming out of our youth system and starting to play for the team. That hadn't happened in a long while, and so that was exciting seeing Tierney Kearney step into his own that season. Seeing the emergence of Dembele, you know, that guy that we got for fucking tuppence, you know. So I thought that was good. And then last year I was so down with Celtic last year in the world and everything that happened. That was a more emotional win for me. Whereas the Rodgers one, I kind of expected it to win, not in that way that he did it, which was brilliant. Last year, I always expect to win, but I was more delighted and surprised the way we did it and the storylines that evolved through it and where we've landed now. It's like building a really solid base and framework.
That's exciting. David, what about yourself, mate? Do you prefer the drama or do you prefer a canter?
I have to agree with Liam. I enjoy the drama of it all. Like, obviously winning the treble in the Invincible season. If it wasn't for the fact that we were going for when it became a realization that we could do this unbeaten, that then began to almost ignite the drama in that season. We're so far in front that you could, like you say, put your feet up and relax a bit and go, well, league's won, so you weren't paying much attention to what they were doing, and you didn't really care if they won because you're like, oh, it doesn't really matter, they're never catching us. And obviously it was amazing to win that, and I loved it. But there was something about last season that it was a bit sweeter to win that. The league last year, just because of like where we were and what was being said in the papers, and we were written off already by this point. We don't even at this point in the season they were writing us off. So for us to catch up, then overtake, and then just in the manner that we won it this year, I almost enjoyed that journey more than I did. That's a hard one to admit. Maybe that's not the right way of putting it, but there's definitely a sweeter victory in what we got this season than maybe the treble. Though the journey of the treble, if you want to put it that way. Obviously, winning all three and the way and the manner we done it in terms of not losing was amazing. But the journey of last year was a bit more. The dramatics was more intriguing for me, I think. Enjoyable, maybe.
The thing is, with hindsight, obviously, because now we're 6 years on from this and looking back, this is the beginning of the quadruple treble. Say the next 4 seasons is just history after history. This is the first treble that's won undefeated. Then no team had ever won a double treble. We did it in the season after. No team had if they hadn't won a double treble, no team had done a treble in Scotland. So then we did that. And then you're talking about only a few teams in the world that done treble. So then it was like a quadruple treble. So yeah, this is just the beginning of it, but it was a phenomenal season to look back on and say it was fun times, and we will at some point get onto the double treble and treble seasons and so forth. But I say for tonight, we've covered the 2016-17 season. Now, quickly, Mark, before you go, because obviously you're only on for another few minutes, we're going to finish up on the old quiz question from the start of the show. Now, for anyone that came in late in the chat, as you know, I always like to throw a trivia question out there. So it was this: Brendan Rodgers swept the board of trophies in Scotland this season. It made him the 7th Northern Irish manager to win major honours in Scottish football, but can you name the other 6? So, gentlemen, what have you got for me?
I've got a couple, but I'll wait for you. Right.
Well, Neil Lennon's the obvious one.
Obvious, yes. That's
I mean,
one.
It's Tommy Wright. Where's Tommy Wright from?
Tommy Wright is correct. Yeah, Tommy Wright's correct. He won the 2014 Scottish Cup with St.
the only
Johnstone.
Scottish Cup and League Cups.
It's either a Scottish Cup, League Cup, or a Scottish League. Basically, any silverware in Scotland. Northern Irish managers. There's 7 that have won.
First manager when we beat us.
Who did you say, Mark? Your thing cut out there. Jimmy Nicholl. Aye, Jimmy Nicholl's won. Yeah, Rafe Rovers, the 1994 League Cup.
The other O'Neill. Martin O'Neill. And then what was the
Martin
other
O'Neill?
O'Neill? What was the other one? There was another O'Neill as well, right?
Michael.
No. Martin O'Neill is an answer, obviously. Sound the Martin O'Neill klaxon. It's taken us 2 hours and 25 minutes, but Boise would have been raging if Martin O'Neill. He probably is raging. He wasn't the first answer that anybody said, but yeah. So we've got Martin O'Neill, Neil Lennon, Tommy Wright, and Jimmy Nicholl. So there's 2 more.
Kenny Shields.
Kenny Shields, yeah, 2012.
yeah,
League Cup
Kenny.
with Kilmarnock. Yeah,
Aye, Kenny Shields. Aye. He's a women's football now, I believe, isn't he?
yes, he's an Irish manager. Yeah. Now the final one is the Snidey one, because this guy is Scottish born, but he played for Northern Ireland in his playing career. He's got caps for Northern Ireland, and honestly, it will floor you when you see who it is.
So tell me, can you give me the team at least?
Is it relative? It's quite new, relatively
It's
new.
quite recent, I would say. If I
St.
give
Johnstone's
you the team, that'll
manager.
be... No, you got that one, Tommy, right? You got it.
The goalie.
No, I was thinking the other boy, the one that just won the
Oh,
double
Callum
there.
Davidson, you're thinking about? No, he's Scottish.
Aye, no, see, not. I just thought it might be a wee curveball there, but okay, not him.
So it's hang on a minute here.
I'm keeping my eyes on the comments to see if anybody says the name. In fact,
I can't
somebody
see.
has, but I'll give you another couple of minutes just to see if you.
Come on, give us a team.
If I give you the team, it's going
No, don't then. Hang on.
to give it away. I could be beating the final.
Bobby Williams.
Can you give us the year? Can you give us the year that that you won it?
2013.
Would that give it away? Sorry?
2013.
2013.
Mm.
It's going to be Motherwell or something.
No, I don't.
Was it Aberdeen win something that year? No.
No.
That would have been Derek McInnes.
Aye.
That's not him then, is it?
Somebody in the chat has got it, by the way. But yeah, it's a Snidey one because he is Scottish born, but he played for Northern Ireland as his international team.
2013. Who won it?
Fuck.
2 people have got it now in the chat.
That's the one I could get the rest of them except that one. Adam. Hang on. Oh, fuck. 2013. So that would have been 3 in a row, would it? Have been 2 in a row, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Roy Tyler beat off
Was it Ross County? Was it the Ross County?
Not
manager?
Ross County, no.
No.
S.
I'm out, mate.
M1S won it. Well, that was Terry Butcher, was it? Or John Hughes managed M1S at the time.
Was it Neil? No, it was Hamilton.
No.
So it wasn't the odds, obviously, right?
Not a bad guess, Liam, to be fair. You're in that sort of right mind of thinking, you know. But I say it's a really Snidey one because he's no really Northern Irish. He qualified for Northern Ireland through obviously parents or grandparents or whatever.
So he's probably an ex-Rangers player, probably.
I don't know his playing career. I know he's still managing now in a team in the lower leagues of Scotland. I know that.
All right. Is it? No, but he's a
How
Tim.
low?
No.
Yeah, did they go to Clyde? No.
Oh, Clyde. That might be a good place to look.
Danny Lennon.
Danny Lennon is Scottish. He's got caps for the Northern Ireland B team. Played for Northern Ireland. I couldn't
Alright.
believe it when I looked up. I was like, Northern Irish. I mean, he's not Northern Irish, but yeah, he's listed as Northern Ireland. When you look at Wikipedia with the winning managers, it's got their nationalities down there. Aye, Northern Ireland. But in terms of Patrick McLaughlin got it and Stephen Coulthard got it, they beat Danny Lennon. But they beat us in the semi-final in 2013 in the League Cup, and then they beat Hearts in the final in 2013, the 3-2.
God.
Aye, so there you go. So, aye, but he's a snidey one. He's the sort of like outside the box answer for that one. But well played on getting the rest of them, guys. But yeah, that wraps up tonight's Bustalgia. Next week's one, episode 4 in the Celtic years, is a player-specific special. I'm hoping that because Mr. Boyce has promised that he'll come on for that one, is the Chris Sutton special. We'll be looking back over the years that Sutton played for us, picking out some of his best moments. That's going to be good. That's going to be very, very good. So, yes, the Chris Sutton one next week on Bustalgia. And, yeah, we are out of here, guys, unless any of you have anything else you wish to say. All good?
No, I'm all
There you
good.
go, Mark. You said you had to go at 10:30, and it's bang on 10:30. There you go, mate.
I was getting you a wee lot of time. I'm allowed a wee minute, so I'll stay behind and have a wee chat with you.
No worries. So, yeah, guys, so we're heading out here for the night. Yeah, it is getting late. As you know, Bustalgia does run very, very late. So, hope you've enjoyed this one. As always, hit the like, comments, shares, subscriptions, all that other good stuff as well, because it helps the channel out massively. And, yeah, we are out of here for another week. So, catch you later.
Thanks, guys.
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now. And you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan.